And hey, yo, it's Yogi Chander, and I'm here with Campbell from Auto Didactic and Auto Didactic 2 and Auto Didactic Infinity, probably. Campbell, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for taking the time to be here. You're doing so much work, and it's really special that you'd be on my little show. And anybody that is here watching it is getting a real treat. So, what can I say about you that you would like them to know? Or would you like to introduce yourself?
What can you say? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm just researching. Got a comes up. Yeah, so with this current situation, this is pretty much what I'm doing full time. So yeah, jumping in fast into our story, because as we know, his story is not ours; it's his story. So yeah, working out our story.
His story, our story, and your story. I'd love to hear anything about your story that you want to share tonight. Anything about your history and about what brought you here. Anything, or if you don't want to share much at all, that's fine. But the stories we have and the stories we tell ourselves kind of form our reality, don't they?
Definitely, yeah. And the issue we've got at the moment is most people's stories aren't their own; they've been given to them. We have this study, and we can see it at the moment. The story's changing. When they want to change it, they just change the narrative, and when they do that, they sort of control, the future really. So, yeah, I think to make a better world, to go somewhere better, we all need really is. Because obviously, history is written by the winners, and
There's a little delay that I'm getting used to, so pardon it, everybody, if there's a little pause.
No worries.
So, you were talking about the gardens, the English gardens, a few minutes ago before we got on camera. Yeah. What can you tell about that?
Yep, we can jump into that. So, most people a lot of people may have heard of the world's which were big fairs, constructions really held around the world in the sort of mid to late 1800s, early 90s. They're different than they sort of were, and they're quite sort of a nice because of the buildings that were there, and also the amount of people that they were getting. In sort of like St. Louis, huge world fair, and it was supposed to have all these millions and millions of people turning up back in what was St. Louis, 1880. And just when there's no population, no way to travel. 18 what?
Was it 1896? I don't know.
86 could have been. So what I've come across lately is something similar, but they're so these are towns that they all sort of from the 1850s to the 1900s. They were presented as villages or model villages, model towns, and these are pre-built. These, when you look at the pictures, they're fully designed. The houses are huge, they're red brick, and they all have these old world cathedrals in them, these massive structures, with doorways that are 3 times as big as a person kind of thing. And the Capitol
sort of
buildings,
anomalous.
these big Capitol buildings with domes and columns and all that stuff. And they're all, supposed to have been built in a couple of years, hundreds of buildings. And there's some kind of industry. So there's one I was looking into that was called Port Sunlight, and it was attached to a soap factory. So basically, the story is that the man who owned the soap factory he built that, and then he built the whole village. This is before he went from his factory, and then he got all the workers in, gave them all houses, said, "You can live here. We've got everything you need, and
I did see
you
your
come
video
and work in the factory." And
yes.
This is the story. And so then you have all these people. Obviously, suddenly they're working, and then they're in a position quite where they sort of have to work because they've been given, houses and all these, amenities, and no doubt food and things. So they're not really going to walk away from that. And these, what they look like is they look like old world cities. I'm not sure what your viewers sort of know about the mud flood that we're looking into, which looks like there was an inundation of mud or something that's brought a lot of earth, around sort of 500 years ago, and it's buried buildings, and there's buildings everywhere that are buried, and you see their windows. You see like half a window, and it just goes straight into the ground, into the pavement.
Crazy. Yeah.
Of buildings where they've excavated them, and they find under the ground doors and windows. Windows are still in them, literally in the whole levels under the ground. So something's happened. And so it looks like these villages found them and dug them. Because the story about them building it, the time frame, it's not believable. And then you look into where they get all the work, they get all the brick. Who made the bells for the cathedral and the stained glass? And when you really get into it, it's there's no way they found them. And that's why we have this word founded, right? They say
yes.
with cities and things, it was founded.
Founded,
it was found is what it was.
Found.
Yeah, it was found. So yeah, these look like they just towns that dug them out, and they got people in and turned them into workers, giving them a new sort of paradigm.
Did you say mound?
Sorry?
They started as mounds, you said?
No, not mounds.
Oh.
No. What did I say? Probably said they dug them out. So I'm pretty sure they would have been covered in mud, or they would have been found. Mounds are definitely a part of it. I mean, there's a lot in the UK as well. And this is all the mounds and the mounds and the star forts and the everything. They all seem to be built on energetic points, because when you find mounds, they're places that have been built on for generations, and those mounds become the bases of cathedrals and things, and even the Great Pyramid is built on a mound.
Wow.
So
now see that's a I'm so I am a very fast person, so I'll try to slow down. And I didn't mean to jump on subjects to the mounds, but that's fascinating because I'm fascinated about those, and that's come up recently too. But anyways, you can continue wherever you'd like to go back to that, continue on that, and I'd love to go back to also where you left off. So sorry to.
Yeah, no, we can get into anything. So I mean, that was pretty much it. Yeah. So these villages, they look like in nation towns, basically, is what they look like. And another thing is soap opera. The word soap opera and the concept of soap operas actually come from this town that I was looking into. It was a soap factory, right? And so and literally the soap operas were made to target the homemakers, the wives that were at home, and to get them to buy things. And this is where the word soap opera came from. And of course they evolved into daytime television, especially the 70s and 80s, with, if you're old like me, the Young Restless and Days of Our Lives and those kind of old, there were heaps of them, and they were just all about drama and stabbing people in the back and doing anything for money. And it was just, and you know, all these women used to just sit there and get indoctrinated, and that was really the end result of what started in these villages as radio shows to tell people and it was literally, they were telling them, it was almost like education. They were you know, they'd have shows like, this is how you wash clothes, this is how you wash the dishes, this is how you clean properly, like this is what we're doing. So they were literally indoctrinating them into this role. This is what you do now. And then, of course, it's like, this is how you clean. And by the way, here's what you buy to clean with. Come and give us money. So, and these towns are in Europe and they're in the USA. Someone sent me a message. Hershey's chocolate started as one of these towns, a pre-built town with a factory. They move the workers in. It's all done. They all sit there and they all become the workers of the factory. And that's how Hershey's started. So I'm not sure how widespread it was. But I mean, it's just interesting that these things were, it looks, you know, all over the place, but I've never heard of them. You know, there's so many things that, not like they hide it, they just don't tell us. And unless you go looking for it, you're never going to know that, you know, what the story is. It's, you know, if you sit there, you know, watching the telly and getting one point of view, then, you know, obviously you're going to have the wrong point of view. But so everything's out there. You just got to do the searching is what the deal is. Because they'll try to do it every turn, you know, as far as the system. They don't want us knowing for some reason. You know,
and it's harder every day. I've noticed it getting harder. How do you keep on top of that? That's a interesting point.
On top of like false information, you mean, or on top of
resources, current and valid resources?
Sorry, cut out current topics. Yeah.
Resources, places, sources of information.
I mean, I do pretty well. Resources are diminished.
I don't mean
online as far as research. Is this what you mean, researching?
Well, it used to be so easy.
It's all out there. It's really it's you just really got to do it and work out how it works. And it's really all to do with keywords and finding the right words and things like using Google Translate. So when I'm searching, I'll use some search engines that aren't English. So, you know, if you translate and you find words, you know, in French or Italian, and then you search them, then you suddenly find all this other information.
I found that to be true.
Because if you're searching the English word, it stops. It doesn't tell you the whole thing. So you've really got to, you know, treat it like a map. You know, when you go into something, that's just or a ladder, I guess, and then you keep sort of following down and see where it leads you. The main thing is just finding that first bit, you know, that's different or that's interesting or new. And once you find that, then you can kind of go. But I mean, because as far as, I mean, it depends what you want to look. As far as finding, you know, old buildings, you know, these huge oversight, like ridiculously giant buildings that we don't have many left of. They're easy to find the pictures of those, and star forts, cities like that are flooded out with mud, like Rome. Rome was basically dug out of the mud, and the pictures of it back in late 1800s, I believe, early 1900s. It wasn't long ago. And they dug the whole thing out of mud. It was just completely just buried. But I've never heard that before. I didn't know that. You know, we're sort of told that Rome was this, you know, existing sort of long line of whatever, and that, you know, obviously it fell, but, you know, the story about it getting covered in mud, it seems to escape the history books for some reason. I don't know why.
Right. That's a good point. By the way, if you have anything to share on screen, you're welcome to anything at all. Or if you want me to look anything up and share it, I'd be happy to. But
Get stuff if you want.
Say again.
I've got. I can get. I've got.
You got
tons
all kinds of
so
stuff.
much stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Let me have a quick look here.
I've always been fascinated with architecture.
I can show some of these villages if you want.
Oh yeah, please
architecture.
do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can get some random interesting pictures. Where have I got my file?
You brought a whole new level of understanding to all that around the world. It's amazing what's going on.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's fun. I mean, I've been into history my whole life, and funny enough, I sort of was never that interested in the pyramids. It was always other stuff. You know, most people go for the pyramids first, but I don't know. I mean, I've just always been interested. And when you start looking into it, it just gets even more interesting. All right, we can go through some.
Yes. Did you go through a major turning point as an adult?
No, I'm a weirdo. I remember when I was about 5, and I remember because I went to Christian school and we had, Christian friends and things. I went to church, and I just remember thinking, these people are all lying. These people are standing here going to church saying, I'll do this, I'll do that. Oh, yes, I'm such a good person. And then they come home and they're not being nice people. They're whatever, yelling at their kids, or they're not, giving charity or whatever. It's like that they give this big, I'm this. And so I remember thinking back then, I kind of worked that the game was just to get as many people on your side as you could, and then you win. I mean, that was pretty much it. If you can get as many people, it didn't matter if you were right or wrong. It was just who can yell the loudest and get the biggest sort of following. Gets the power, and that, so I just became a people watcher, and I just used to just watch people and try and work out why they were like they were. And my dad was in mining, so I went to 7 schools, lived in 10 houses before I was 16. So I moved around a bit, sort of 4 states, a couple of countries.
Wow.
So that kind of, I was never anywhere long enough to get indoctrinated, I guess. I was never, I was just never around anywhere long enough to get into that system, into that rhythm of, school and whatever they were teaching. And of course, with every school, what they were teaching was slightly different. It was at a slightly different, place,
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting. So, and then, I never really had a problem with school. But yeah, I sort of, because everything was so disjointed, I was just always into educating myself. And, they never taught me what I wanted to learn. This was pre-internet. We had like the Encyclopedia Britannicas. Do you remember those? In the brown wooden things, and they'd come around and sell them at your door.
I can still feel them.
Those, and I moved them. Yeah. With the gold up the top. We had those, and a couple of extras. I just moved the whole lot into my bedroom when I was like 14. It was like I was looking for something, but I didn't know what I was looking for. And I'd literally just grab random books and randomly open them and just start. So when the internet came along, I was very excited. When someone told me that the internet was somewhere you could put all these answers popping out, I was just like, are you serious? I was so happy when I heard about the internet.
Yes. Right.
Back in the 90s, I don't know, 98, I think it was, like way back. So I was just there, and then I was gone. So yeah, it's a little about me.
Yeah, there's so much more I'd like to hear sometime. Hopefully we'll have more conversations, but what do you got there to show us?
Yeah, okay. How do we, so if I hit share, is that right?
I think so. I don't think I have to allow anything.
Share screen.
Excuse me.
Okay. Interesting pics. Select window, hang on. Screen. Okay, hopefully this will work.
Oh yeah, it looks
Can
like
you
it's
see that?
working out there. Uh-huh.
You can see that
Let's see
big
if I can
picture
add
of
it.
the.
There we go.
Or is that on the screen? Hang on.
Is it? Oh,
Let me move.
let me know when you're ready.
I'll move
Sorry.
this across here. Let me know when you're ready. And that way I can see what's on the screen. I'll make this big. Okay. So sharing. So share. So is it sharing? No, it's not. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Why isn't it showing that? Here we go. Oh, okay. Hang on. One tick. Okay, share screen. Window. Stream. Screen one. Oh, okay, that's it there. That should pop up. Now, hopefully they'll all pop up.
There we go.
There you go. All right. So this is basically this is like the old world buildings that we see everywhere. You know, with all these domes, all these columns. You can see the size of it. I'll just go through these pictures. I'm not really sure what's in here.
Thank you for sharing this.
I mean, look at this. So this, I'm not sure if you can sort of get the size of that in perspective, but see down here, these are like 4-story buildings.
Holy mackerel.
Here. So this is, you can see there's a person up the top there, I think. And we get these buildings and we've got pictures of them. I mean, these, as far as we know, don't exist anymore. And see these towers, these pillars?
Yes. What's up with those?
These are everywhere, and these balls on the top of them, these balls are everywhere. And when you see the pillars, they all tend to be in pairs like this.
Yes.
And so that goes back to, you've probably heard of Boaz and Joachim.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah. But what they also look like is they look like tech. You know, when you see the top of them. And so they're also holes, right? Like positive, negative.
It looks
so they could be actually part of an electric system.
Indeed.
Because what's
are those doors
is all
on those
throughout. Yeah. Yeah, these are massive. You can get inside them. Yeah.
But look how much smaller those are than the main door.
Than that, yeah.
Wow.
And this is another thing. I mean, you can see these buildings here are a lot smaller than this. I mean, this has got writing all over it, so I'm not even sure what it is. But
the writing's on the wall.
Like I said, a lot of these buildings were taken down, but there were giant-sized buildings and not so giant-sized buildings. And it's still the Vatican. Is it Saint Michael?
Oh, look
No,
at
the
that.
big basilica at the Vatican is ridiculous. It's so oversized. And we get things like this just popping out of the ground here. The top of the top of a fairy tale castle.
It sure is.
And
Wow.
see all these
Oh,
knobbly
Antiquitech.
bits?
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Antiquitech.
And up the top, we've got cathedrals and balls. And see, look, it's literally just coming out of the ground here. You know, so this
What
is
is up with that?
looks like something that's buried. Yeah, well, it looks like it's just the top of a castle sticking out, doesn't it?
Wow.
And you know, no doubt the story will be, oh, they just built a tower. You know, someone probably built it for their wife or something. You just get all these ridiculous stories.
That's an interesting thing. Recently, I heard about sham follies. Are you familiar with those?
Sorry, what was that?
Something called sham follies.
I've heard that before. I can't remember what it was. It does ring a bell.
Just real quick, through some research I was doing on my own family, I found this. And World Fairs. Actually, it started with the World Fairs, and it took me to this estate in England, basically, and it had 22 features that were built on their property, supposedly for just there were replicas of odd things like that, like castles
yes,
and
yes,
stuff.
yes,
And they,
yes,
for all
yes,
intents and
yes.
purposes, they were real.
Yeah, I think there's a castle that's actually called Folly Castle or something, is it, or Sham Castle? But yeah,
Maybe.
they said it was like a trend. You know, it was like a trend back in the 1700s, and people would go and build structures to make them look like they were old and decrepit and falling apart, kind of thing.
Right. Sounds like a cover up.
Nice way to explain away, you know, unexplainable buildings, don't you think?
Exactly. You know what's interesting, Campbell, is how
it's just
when you look at any one of these things, but especially the World Fairs, it just branches off into so much. And it's like you said earlier, it's more sometimes I think it's rabbit holes, but I really like the idea of expansion. There's so much that it branches off into.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about this research is we seem to be getting somewhere. So that's why I say it's not a rabbit hole. Is, you know, the further we go, it's like we're going because we're finding more and more. It's not like, you know, so it's leading us somewhere. It's not like a rabbit hole that's just sort of this, you know, never-ending sort of, you know, void of information that sort of gets you nowhere. This, we started researching, just literally a couple of years ago, and we were speculating, you know, about all the windows that went into the ground and the steps of the front door, and we were saying, well, they must be covered in mud. And then, you know, 6 months, a year later, we had the photos. You know, people found the photos of these excavated buildings. I can show you some of those too, with literally doors under the ground and windows with glass in them. And look at this. This is, you know, the sort of 1880s or so. You can see everyone's dressed up in that
interesting
kind
time
of garb. This lady's got her brolly. But look at the building. Like, this is bark with bits of wood put on it. Yeah. And so they try and sell us this story of, oh, this is, you know, basically this is what people were living in and this is what people could actually build. But then we have all these other buildings and they say, oh, no, they built those as well. So we have this big, you know, disjoint because we have buildings like this.
Right.
And they kind of say, oh, no, well, these were built in the 1700s or the 1800s.
With the same technology
Yeah. And like,
what was that last thing you showed?
Yeah, it's just lots and lots of stories. So this is the Arc de Triomphe, I believe. This is not a construction photo. We get a lot of photos. You know, we're looking for construction photos and we can't find them.
Right.
You know, we get things like
true.
where it's clearly a finished structure, but they've just whacked a bit of, scaffolding on it. But I mean, this they won't say. No doubt they're saying they're sort of refurbing it. But all the construction photos seem to be missing of all these buildings that were built after photography was invented.
Just like the
photography was invented
ISS.
in 1827. Yeah. So by the 1850s, photography, at least, cities and that had them. And so why wouldn't they be taking photos of these landmark buildings that they were building, these wonders, like this?
That's fascinating.
I mean, when you look at see the middle? That's a winding staircase going down around the outside as well.
Sure.
There's just so much intricacy, and they say, oh no, this was just built by the people in the 1800s. Dirt roads, chisels, no technology, no electricity. And then you can get into
ridiculous when you
I've
look
done a
into
couple
it.
of studies. Yeah, it is. Glass. You look into glass and glass making, and when they could actually make glass panels. And it was the 1840s. It was literally a couple of years before the First World's Fair in 1851. And in that fair, they had a building called the Crystal Palace that was literally just all glass made out. It's just like a big greenhouse.
That's such a synchronistic topic. Okay.
Yeah, but if you look into it, they didn't have the technology to make panels of glass that big. But they say, oh no, we did. And they also built it in, I think, 9 months. And we worked out like they'd need to get just, if they could make the glass, it would be like 24 hours a day. They'd be churning out, so many, panels.
I was seeing some big controversy about the opening day of that being on the Sabbath, and there being all sorts of upheaval about it.
Saturday.
I think the Crystal Palace was set to open on the Sabbath, and so there was a religious upheaval about it, I believe.
I don't know. I've never heard that. Maybe, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, because all these buildings, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the research is saying, is they were all found. They weren't built. And so they were taken over from a previous civilization, and a previous civilization that could and wanted, to build things like, this. I mean, look at these arches. I mean, we couldn't even do this today if we wanted to. Not to mention, I mean, have they all got holes in them or something? I don't know.
Wow.
Bricks, but all we build now is cubes, squares. So it's the people, in control now aren't the people who are building this old stuff. It's a different mindset, different values. This is an old map, so you can see how they used to. This is how some towns used to look. It was all based on geometry.
Wow.
There's just, I mean, stuff like this. This is, we're looking into the fact that a lot of things look melted out there. And when you look at this rock, it looks melted, and we're given this story of, oh, they've just, carved it all out and everything, and it just looks like this. But, there may be another story there, that this, they may have been statues, and all this rock may have melted and come over the top. I've got some better photos. Here's, like, for size, see that?
Wow.
See how big these people are compared
Look
to
at
that
this.
church. And these are the kinds of churches that they were building in those gardens, villages and cities and things like this. I mean, look at the size of that stained glass. That's taller than this man.
Wouldn't that be? That's interesting. That could be a clock tower if it were somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, clocks is another thing. I actually just did a video.
Indeed.
Um, there used to be lots of astronomical clocks. So look, I think time is part of what was introduced as, with these villages, the work hour, the 8-hour work hour, clocks. Oh, it's time to get up. It's time to go to work. It's time to have lunch. Quick, bang, 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 get into routine. But before, in the previous civilization, before whatever happened, they seem to go off the sky clock.
Right.
Because the only true time is the sky. That's the only true time we have. It's the sun and the moon. And then you have, for bigger cycles, you can talk about, the star signs and things like that. But basically, it's the sun and the moon, right? Sun goes up, sun goes down. That's a day. Moon, goes through its phases 13 times a year. That's supposed to be a month, so we're supposed to have 13 moons. But they stuff that up as well. And so, yeah, everything is basically this just off. And so, literally, whoever designed time could have, they could have said, oh, there's 15 hours in a day, or there's whatever, because all they're doing is dividing up what we have in nature, the natural time cycle. Clocks are all man-made, and that's man-made time to affect our brain, to get us into cycles and routines, and also to make us, the concept of time, it just makes everything a bit more physical. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Campbell. I just had my mind blown because I was just thinking about, I was having a discussion and with someone, and I heard something on a podcast, I think, about that. You can lock demons or fairies or evil spirits and things in mazes and labyrinths to trap them, so they're busy and they can't work their magic. It's kind of like what's happening to us with time. Time is our labyrinth that's locking us in. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. I don't know what this is. The Foggy Bottom Gang. I don't know.
Wow.
That's interesting. Some random picture I've got. Oh, here you go. Look at this one.
Look at that thing.
And buildings like this are still all over the place. We just sort of don't really notice them because, we've got this story and they've always been there. But just look at the people in this as well. Like, you can see this. These are people.
Why?
So look how tall that first story is. And with buildings like this, you can see this, especially this one here. See, that's 2 stories. You can see that was 1 story, and they've turned that into 2 stories.
Oh yeah. And is that horse and carriage down there?
Look,
I can't.
Could be
I thought
there.
it was.
Can't really see. Look, big clocks there. So dirt roads. Oh, bit of paving maybe. Oh, yeah, there you go. Horse and cart. So there's someone pulling there. So this is early 1900s at the latest kind of thing. And they've built, and this is another thing. They've built this, but look at the machinery they've got. How are they bringing the bricks in? Did they just have a team of people pulling carts?
Wow.
That's
unbelievable. Think about that. Just suspend the story and look at that. It's ridiculous.
It is. When you start to look at them, it is. And this is, these things are everywhere too. Look at this. This is like the ruins of something just stuck to this rock out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And these things are everywhere. Ruins, we all know ruins, but all these ruins seem to be made of red brick. This is the rotundas you see everywhere.
Yeah.
And they've got like a roof. You see them in parks. Bandstands, is that what you call them? Bandstands? Yeah. So
gazebo, bandstand. Mm-hmm.
Gazebo, yeah, that kind of thing. And you can see it's got machinery under it, and it's going down here into water, and it's actually pumping water up from a tank.
Oh,
You see here,
wow.
machine hydraulic. So it's a water machine that's doing something. I'm not sure where the water goes. But so they had all this tech, we're sort of told, no, there was no tech back in the day. They were just all living in the mud and all this stuff, but there was tech. And I mean, this is one of those pictures where you just get mud. Like, there's no roads here, and there's no people, but there's all these. Look at that. I know it's just a drawing, but
Wow. Dude.
so and I mean, look at this. This is in obviously Asia, China, or somewhere. But I mean, look
It's
at that
the
tower.
Game of Death pagoda.
Pagoda.
There's going to be Bruce Lee hanging out in there with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Sorry?
It was a movie reference. Bruce Lee. They fought in a thing like that.
They fought in this one, did they? Or
Well, I'm not sure. In the Game of Death, it was Bruce Lee's final movie. Sort of, he was dead during part of the filming. They had to sort of replace him with another actor halfway through. It was weird, really weird. But it took place in a big pagoda like that, and he had to fight someone at every level. I think Kill Bill had something like that too. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big movie guy anymore, but there's a lot to that. What's behind that? Do you think?
What's behind building this?
Yeah, like.
I mean, I would say this has got to be tech. Look what's on the top of it.
Look, the giant.
It's a ball. Energy. There are photos of one of these balls cracked open, and it was full of mercury.
Oh wow!
Which is magnetic. So mercury creates magnetic fields. With collecting, energy from the ether. Basically, it's got to do with height. You've got to basically build towers high to be able to access and draw and get power.
Because that's very high.
So that's I think, yeah, and it looks like it's all red brick. Wow. It's all
what
brick,
is the deal
I think,
with the red brick?
The red brick. Yeah, the red brick. Red brick's mentioned in the Bible as well. Here's a couple more towers. But everything seems to be red brick. I mean, yeah, there's a few theories out there. This is the thing. What makes them red? This is, a lot of people. Have you sort of heard the Titan theory?
The which theory?
Like mud fossils, like titans and mud fossils.
Yes.
Where they talk, everyone's probably seen, mountains and rock formations that look like animals and people.
Yes, I've always thought that since I was a kid.
Yeah,
small child, I should say.
There's one at Machu Picchu. If you look at it, there's a lady lying down around the side. But there's a couple of mountains. There's more than a few that look like elephants. And there's one in where is it? Spain, and it's called in Spanish, or maybe it's Italy. The name is the Elephant. And this guy went and got a drone, and basically he flew in where this elephant's ear should be, and he went in this hole, and he went around, and basically all these tunnels, so-called tunnels, were in the same place as an actual elephant's, the holes in its ears. He mapped it, and it's the same biology.
Wow.
So who knows? A lot of people say that the red brick, or think that it may be something to do with the remains of huge beasties, because obviously red, iron, blood. But there's got to be something going on, because it's the same everywhere. Here's another just random tower just poking out of the ground.
Look at that.
And they just give you some blasé, offhanded explanation of, oh, it was built back then, don't worry about it. But I mean, also look at the ground level there. So, God knows how far into the ground it goes.
Wow. There's the other case where if it's some major structure, sometimes there's like 30 architects on it.
There's what, sorry?
There's like, a team of like 30 architects working on the thing, it's ridiculous. It's either there's no story or it's a story of like 30 people from across the world.
That they go overboard. Or it's one person who's designed, 40 government buildings in their career in 20 years or something. And you go and talk to like an architect today and you say, how long would it take to design one of these buildings from scratch? And they're talking years. Before you even look at, breaking ground and getting work crews, it's 3 or 4 years just to design these places. And there's one in Sydney, Australia. They had a World's Fair in Sydney, Australia as well, and Melbourne and Hobart. So we had at least, I found another one. We've had at least 4 in Australia. But their building, the main exposition building, is just massive, domes, the whole lot, and they say it was built in 9 months. And that's from the idea. That's from someone saying, hey, we should build this building, to it being completed. So you couldn't even design it in that time.
No. And then you have to requisition all the things.
Yeah, well, it was in Australia. In Australia was, so-called discovered in 1788.
Right.
So this thing was built, literally it was might have been in 1900, but basically about 100 years after they landed here. And the story is when they landed in Australia, they didn't have anything. They didn't know where the clay for the bricks was. They didn't know where the good sand that they could make glass was. So they had to find all that. Then they had to create the industries to turn it into something. And then they had to get transport sorted out. And that's before they could even think of building anything apart from, a bark hut. But we're told, oh, no, they were just whacking these things. I mean, I've got buildings that were supposed to be built in the 1820s. Like, literally, like, within 40 years of the boat, them stepping off the boat onto apparently, basically technological, should we say, or, a land that was supposed to be, have no technology at all, just some natives running around in loincloths is the story we get. But it just doesn't make sense. And when you start asking these questions, there's a lot more as well. Here you go. So this is Queensland. This is Maryborough. Now, Maryborough is just a little town in country Queensland. At the moment, I think the population is about 9,000 people, so it's not big. And this is it back in the 1800s. And you can see, look at this building. Columns, the balls on the top, this fencing we see everywhere, the porticos. Here's another one. Here's another tower. And this was all supposed to be built. So this scene here, this would be within 100 years of them literally landing in Australia with nothing. That's what they tell us. First fleet, they had a couple hundred men, no convicts, I don't think. Some women, apparently some horses. And from there, within 100 years, this is just one town. They've also built, 7 major cities and hundreds of other towns just full of these buildings within a 100-year period, with no population. That with a population that started from a few hundred. And so this is what we get. The way they cover this is the gold rush, right? The gold rush.
Right.
This is why we have gold rush towns everywhere. And they say, oh, no. Because, like you walk into this town, it's like, well, why would you build this for such a small population? They go, oh, no, there was a gold rush.
Right.
And, the population swelled to 50,000 and everyone was rich. And so they built all these buildings. But then wasn't everyone digging gold for gold? Who was building the buildings? I mean, and then in Australia, like this is like in Australia where, I mean, the US is kind of the same. You're a big country. So this town would be today probably 3 or 4 hours travel from the nearest city. Probably a couple of hours to the coast. So how do they even get everything in there? All these materials, bricks, mortar, glass, iron. It's a ridiculous story.
If today it's a 3-hour journey with what we have, you're saying? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, 3 or 4 hours today. So you can imagine it would have been, a week at least back then with a horse and cart.
And some people wouldn't have made it alive.
No. Well, in Perth, we're on the coast, and basically in Perth, if you drive inland a couple of hours, you're in the desert. You're in the desert.
Wow.
And so we have, gold rush towns, and we have a town called Kalgoorlie, and it's still actually a big gold mine there. It's one of the biggest gold producers in the world. But the story is that back in the 1860s, there was no roads, there was nothing there. Someone, found gold. So all these people from Perth got wheelbarrows, put their stuff in their wheelbarrow, and walked to Kalgoorlie, pushing wheelbarrows. That's the story. Now, there's a couple of small rivers and things out there if you knew what you were looking for, but there's not really any water out there at all. No food. And this would have taken, pushing a wheelbarrow would have taken a month to do that. But this is the believed story. Oh, yeah, everyone just walked there. I mean, they would have all died. It's just, they would have all died. It's mad. I mean, and there you go. How's that for a bridge? Look at these. These are all boats. See that?
Wow.
See how they're all boats? So this is the kind of architecture that they did and that they could do. Now, they didn't just build a bridge, so people could drive their car over so they could get to work.
No.
They were building things. And when they built things, it was, they built it once kind of thing and it lasts forever. And these towers are everywhere. Here's another one.
Do you, as we're going through these, are you of the opinion that, like, these buildings were created by, like, us? And us, I mean, not the ones in control, or ancestors of ours or something?
Okay. So one of the biggest questions is, the size of the buildings. And, we, apart from the size of the buildings, we have photos of giants. I've got a collection of news clippings from, sort of around the turn of last century, all pretty much from the USA. All, people finding giant skeletons and digging them up. And then we all know, they went to the Smithsonian and probably ended up in the ocean or something. And then, of course, we have stories that are in the Bible, Goliath. So it looks like there was clearly, two, I don't know, different peoples, races. I don't know. It looks like, I don't think that there were giants that de-evolved into us, if you know what I mean, that got smaller and where the result, just because we get these massive buildings next to small buildings. And we have pictures, we have photos from the 1800s, of giants and normal sized people. So I tend to think that the giants were probably the builders of most of this stuff, and they were basically attacked and wiped out. But I think what happened is there was a cataclysm, and it really, really sort of dealt them a pretty big blow, and their civilization and their tech. And then, opportunists sort of jumped in and took over. That's what it seems like to me. And the other thing is this didn't happen that long ago. They love to push history back in time and back, and blah, 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 blah. But it looks like the most recent reset, apart from this one, 1850s. So not that long ago, when they were literally releasing populations into these towns, the garden towns and that, into world expos. At the St. Louis, I believe, the St. Louis Expo, you could actually get. They actually gave you out like diplomas. When you went and did, if you went into an exhibit and did something, they'd give you a diploma. And they were giving people licenses and things. And so the World's Fairs too were really like an indoctrination. This is the world. This is the machine of Marley.
That's where?
This was built in the 1600s. Well, so they say. And this was pumping water again. So always got to do with water. This was pumping water up a big hill and across to the Palace of Versailles in France. And Dustin, who's in Buffalo, and he's been looking into Niagara Falls, and it looks like there's remnants of things that may have been machines like this there. So it looks like there was tech all over the place, and it was all running properly, but like someone's gone in and on purpose destroyed it. And we see this with the buildings. They go in and they destroy all these old buildings. They just destroy them. Here's a nice sunken building. I'll see if I can get some. There's some more water wheels back in the day.
Water wheels.
Of course,
I've been
aqueducts.
Thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, Paul Cook, that's his channel. Go check him out. He just put out a video last week, and he found these devices that basically they had like a water wheel, like a water turbine in them, and you plugged them onto your tap in your house, and they spun the wheel and they gave you electricity, and you could plug electric devices into them.
No way.
Literally, you just get electricity from your tap with one of these devices. So how prevalent were these? Was this? Did they have all these tech, but they didn't have the infrastructure because they didn't need it? So that's why we don't see wiring and stuff like this.
Wow.
And it was all a bit different to excuse me. Okay, let me see if I can get.
By the way, look at all this stuff that Campbell is bringing to the table. Definitely go and subscribe to Auto Didactic if you're not already. And I'm sure a lot of you already are.
Gosh. Too many things.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
This one. Okay, this has got some good pictures. So this is in Perth. This is called the Atlas Building. It's still there, and you can see this window underneath this window, and see how the windows are all this level, and then they step up, and then they step up again.
Yeah,
it's because it's sunk, being sunk into the ground. And again, look at the size of this doorway next to this lady. And so
Crazy.
that's why, even this is big, but this isn't it's not really one of the giant buildings. There are some really, really big buildings around. There was one in New York, the New York train station. Was it called New York train?
Grand Central.
It was a train station, and the old central station. It was ridiculously massive. Like the photos in they're like from the Vatican. People look like ants. Like literally, they look like ants.
I was just looking at
This you can
sketches
see
of
dirt road.
that. I was looking through a book of that today, this morning. And the sketches of that were just
Vatican.
incredible.
I did a video probably about a year ago on the Louvre, and I found this book from I think it was the 1800s, and it had all these photos. They were photos, and they were going underneath the Louvre, and this thing went down about for at least 5 or 6 stories under the ground, with roofs and doorways and passages and windows, and it just like that thing is just, it's literally got 4 or 5 stories under the ground.
Holy, really?
So how much of this is under the ground? Because look at this ground level here. See how they've cleared out this bit in here to keep it level for the windows, and they've had to build this stairway to get across. So this is originally the second level, or at least above this level. So yeah, that's mud puddle.
Sure.
But look at what's under there as well. Like, look at this. Look at this. Little things like this. Just the amount of work they go to and the details for the facading and things is just, it's just unbelievable.
Oh, exactly.
And even in the background, look, here's the tower. Tower there.
Wow.
And all these castles and towers, they look like what we're told are fairy tales, right? Fairy tale castles. Yeah, because they want us to believe it's a fairy tale. See how this building looks a little bit low in the ground? See these? Kind of look like they should be a bit taller, don't they? And look at the size of these pillars. And then these windows in the ground, and they're always underneath the windows that are above them. Straight. And look at that. It's literally on the pavement. Now, why would you do that? And when it rains or snows, it's not a good situation to be in.
I can't help looking at that statue as well. There's got to be a lot behind that. The statues fascinate me.
I don't know who that is.
And fountains.
Oh, there you go. It is Franklin. Ben Franklin.
Oh, Benny.
Put his hand up, saying steady on. Benjamin Franklin, he was an inventor, right? Was he the kite guy?
He was the kite guy, yeah, the one who discovered electricity, apparently, and many other things. He has a long list of inventions.
So, So, and there's lots of people like that seem to come along and they just invent, half the stuff we know. And then for the next 100, 200 years, no one invents anything. So I think what we're looking at is, amalgamations of people. So they just get someone and then they just attribute all these different things to one person. And they just turn them into these. Because, what was Benjamin Franklin? 1700s, right? So no one alive today has ever met Benjamin Franklin, right? No one's ever seen him. No one's ever met him, talked to him. No one. So how do we know any of that's true?
Exactly.
Like when really, you just don't know. It might be true, but how do you prove that? So who was he? We have these statues.
Yes.
Are these just statues of old world people and they've just whacked a name on them and all these things and gone, this is your history. This is the story. This was an important person. That's why there's statues of them.
I really wonder that.
Why were they important? Oh, they invented this and this and this and this. Oh, okay. And because you see, everything had to be invented, right? If you look back in time, if you look at the 1700s and you look at what they were wearing, their clothes, like their furniture, like things like chairs and desks, you know, the big, you know, the
It's not
grand
primitive.
buildings they had with, you know, the domes and the light fittings and all this stuff, they were, you know, they were far superior to us. So what happened to all that tech?
Right?
You know, there was all this stuff, and they've sort of had to go, oh no, that never existed. We invented it all.
Exactly.
It all jumps in you know, around the sort of 1750s to 1850s. Everything's invented. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the art was painted in the Renaissance, basically. You know,
And so many things gathered at those world fairs again, going back to that. And even I was looking into
yeah,
I guess I forget what you'd call him, the creator or the designer of the world fair in St. Louis had so many things attributed to him that were major things, like a huge list. And so many things were introduced in that
yeah,
fair and the others.
yeah. I mean, the World's Fairs. I mean, they were really brutal as well.
Oh yeah.
You know, they weren't nice places. You know, they were killing animals and things, and like literally, they were getting people dressing them up as natives and making them kill animals in front of people.
Awful.
You know, to create this story of but that's not what they were. These were literally people that were grabbed. I'm not sure if they were paid or if I think they were probably forced as, you know, slavery to do this. And it's all about introducing the story, because then they get all these, you know, probably orphan children and say, oh, look, these are, you know, whatever, these are this kind of people. And look, this is what they do. And they live in that little grass hut there and they wear a loincloth. You
It's
know,
like being
they have no
born into the
character.
soap village, and they just understand that you work for your living and all this stuff, right? And you live by the time and all that. Same thing.
Yeah. Well, if you come out and you know nothing and that's what you're told, you know, and then that's what you also experience and that's kind of what you're pushed into, well, that's just what you do, isn't it? Because
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, you know, we know that the majority of people tend to just accept and take the story and then just go, okay, and sort of live into it, and they create the world. Because this is the thing is, you know, we're the power, we're the only creative force down here. You know, these people who have gained control, you know, people in inverted commas, because they're probably not, they have no creativity at all. And so that's why we have the power. We can invent. All they can do is, you know, get our ideas and change them and control them. You know, which we see, and this is why you see everything de-evolving. Like, look at music. You know, when
But
humans used to make music from creativity, you got things like, you know, these operas and Mozart and stuff.
yeah,
Now we get Katy Perry because music's controlled by corporations. And it's not even music anymore.
but look, I mean, they're not exactly destroying everything completely, right? There's like an obfuscation or an inversion in some cases of things of truth, but not like they're not completely wiping it out, as far as we know, right?
No.
It's wow, that's so
They just want
wild.
to control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Invert, obfuscate, all this stuff. Yeah, look at this. This is a huge column, like completely buried underground. And so this, you know,
Wow.
what's this? This looks like a mud flow of dirt of some kind, isn't it? And when you see stories like this, the story from, and this is literally the story from the mainstream, is the way that this dirt built up is one of three ways. It's rubbish that's left around by the people who live there, because obviously they didn't have brooms, or it's vegetation that has, you know, died and rotted down, or it's sand and dirt that's blown in. So there's a few problems with those explanations, apart from the fact of how much. I mean, are they trying to make us believe that people were throwing their dirt on the ground and then you're stepping on it as it got as it went up by the foot. You know, and if it was blowing in from somewhere, that would, you know, when sand blows in, it gets on one side of thing. It doesn't completely cover things. You get things like sand dunes and mounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get this. So there's no explanation. Like the mainstream have no explanation that makes any sense for what this is. Like, there's nothing. And of course, I don't even want to approach it. So it's kind of left up to us to see what we can find. I mean, there you go. Windows under the ground. With this one's still got the window pane in it. And see on the inside, they've been bricked up with red brick. See that?
Yes.
Here we've got our lintels and our arches, all red brick wall. Down here, windows, and well, the ground level's up here somewhere. You know, we're quite a way under the ground, I think. And so this stuff is...
Wow, that's mind-bending.
You know, it's everywhere. Like this, look at this one. So this was the ground level, you can see here. And where the doors are, that's the street level. Look, glass. It's still got the glass in the windows, and the door is still in the door frame. And here you can see this window. It literally just keeps going down. But all you get to see above the road is just that little bit there. And these are what we see all over the place. And this is what's beneath them. So, yeah, the mainstream don't really have a good explanation for that one.
Not at all. While I'm thinking about rocks and things, I wanted to ask, you know, the Devil's Tower in Wyoming from the Close Encounters movie?
Yeah,
you know what
the tree?
Okay, I was going to ask, do you think it's a rock or a tree?
Devil's Mount or something?
Devil's Tower?
Yeah. They found a root system underneath it.
What, really?
A tunnel system. Yeah.
Wow.
That kind of looks like a root system. So, I mean, it looks, you know, it just looks like there's, you know, something else has been going on in the past. It was much different than we're told. So it looks like, you see, when you have more trees, you have more oxygen and more carbon dioxide in the air, because basically trees make oxygen, and of course giant trees make giant leaves which fall and rot down, and they make CO2. So basically that means that you can have bigger animals and bigger people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and this is the thing, is if we had giant people, then why not giant trees? And the mainstream tell us, when, you know, ice age creatures and all this, they were all giant, right? Giant elephants, giant horses, giant everything, but not giant people, just everything else. It was, you know, like you've seen the picture of the dragonflies, you know, dragonflies are a meter long,
right?
You know, yeah, huge. But people just stayed the same size. We didn't get affected. And of course, you know, if you've got bigger, you know, insects, you need bigger flowers, right? Because most insects feed off flowers and things and plants. So if they're bigger, the plants have to be they have to be bigger to support them. You know, if you've got giant elephants, you need giant trees that can grow enough leaves for those elephants to eat. I mean, it just makes, so yeah. Wow. It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean,
how were we ever deceived in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. This is school, right? School. They give us the story. They're still doing it. And this is the thing, you know, where this was started back in the 1850s. So how many generations are we into this? And they still have to spend, you know, 15 years indoctrinating us, because that's how smart we are.
Before we have a chance to even
full time on going, no, don't look, don't look, don't look.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look, you find things like this. This is a church in USA, St. Anne's, I believe. And you can see this is a picture, an old picture. That's ground level. This is water. That's a reflection there. And they did some excavation, and you can see this is,
Wow.
see just there. Can you see that sort of shape there, that little point?
Yeah.
And underneath this, that's the top of this door. See that? See that sort of pointy bit there? That's it there. So this whole door is underground, and windows, arches, the whole thing. That much, and we don't, who knows if that's even the bottom, right?
Right.
Because a lot of these buildings we look at, they look top heavy. They look like they're not tall enough, and it's because of this, because they're literally not tall enough. They've been buried. So this is the question, like if anything's possible. If this is possible, if we've got buildings with multiple levels buried underground, and we know that this happened, definitely within the last 1,000 years, then anything's possible, isn't it? I mean, we've been completely lied to. We've been completely lied to. Like, this proves that our world is completely different to what we've been told. And I guess this gets down into, what are they really hiding? Because we talked about time and clocks and the sky clock and things like this, and introduced time. Because when you look at time on the bigger scale, we've just changed ages, right? We've just gone from Pisces to Aquarius. So this is the knowledge they're keeping from us, is the bigger view of time and ages, and the fact that cataclysms do come, resets do happen, things do change. And that's as far as at the moment, I think that's one of their biggest secrets. This is the temple at Salt Lake City.
Really?
This is the foundations, and this was the ground level. You can see there's plants growing up here. And see this all filled in with water, with rubble. I've got a better one here. This one, this is the temple, Salt Lake City. This is a person sitting here.
Wow.
So you can see how
now
much
that's
of
a
this
whole
was
nother
underground.
story. Just
yeah, exactly. All the way down. And of course, Salt Lake City, they tell us, what was it, a couple of hundred people rocked up in carts and started building this temple
before anybody's there.
They just forgot to tell us that they dug a big hole and then buried the bottom level. This is 14 feet. 14 feet from, and that's not including this foundation. That's just there to there. That's a 14-foot level. And see upstairs? Can you see? Here's the doorway.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
The original doorway. And they've just literally built stairs on top, and this would have been a window on top of it, and they've turned it into a door. Put these stairs in, and there's the original. This window, straight through under the ground.
Wow.
This is even like some kind of facade thing popping off the side here. So we're kind of at the point where, there's not really a lot you could say, in defense of that this didn't happen. We've just got too much proof that something has gone on. There was a mud flood of some kind. And it was big. This 14 feet, we've got ones that are bigger. This is Russia, same kind of thing. This is a street. And look, you can just see. And again, they're all directly underneath the windows and doors on top. Just the whole way up the street. Buried levels. And red brick again.
What is this, Russia? This isn't Russia. Is this Russia?
Russia, yeah. Russia.
There's this
and
quote from Caddyshack.
Big tower. And this also, see how this is now it looks got kind of like a dingy green, like they'd probably try and pass it off as like a 50s or 60s building or something.
Right.
This is what they do. They paint them and they make them look different on the outside.
Yeah.
But they're all red brick. They're all red brick underneath. They just give them different facades, and that way they can give them different time frames. And they say, oh, this was the classical era, and this was the whatever era. This was the
Exactly.
Georgian era, the Victorian era, and that's why that we've got all this architecture. But I think what the story is, we've got different architecture because these things are more than buildings, especially when we start talking about these towers and cathedrals. They pretty much look like they're machines. Look at this one. They built the road on top of the old building. This is France, I believe, in the 70s. And look at all these windows everywhere. Windows, windows, windows. All red brick again. And just going, I mean, well, I mean, we don't even get to see how far down it goes. Well, actually, the next one will show us.
While you're looking at these, so what do you speculate might have been the cause of the mud floods?
See how big, look at that. That's a semi-trailer.
Dude.
You can see how big this hole is. So at the moment, I'm looking into plasma discharges. And have you heard of Lichtenberg? What are they called? Lichtenberg shapes or Lichtenberg?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Word is, but they're basically it's like lightning. When you see lightning, that shape. If you get two electrodes and put them on a piece of wood, they'll spark, and you'll get this pattern, and it's called a Lichtenberg pattern. And it's this, it looks like lightning kind of thing. When you look at Google Earth, a lot of mountain ranges look like exactly the same. And I mean exactly the same. Now, that leads us to believe that maybe there was a big electrical discharge of some kind.
Oh.
And of course, we know, it's an electrical, everything's electricity down here, everything's electrical. I think Tesla said, was it Tesla who said the world is a battery? Of course, we have poles, different poles, just like a battery does. So if there was a discharge and it's hit the land, basically, if it was big enough, it would vaporize all the water, which gives the lift, which means the land lifts up because water expands to 1,600 times its size instantly. And that's how we get the patterns. Now, if that happens, and with the heat as well, that could cause a mud flood, I think. If you can imagine, it's all being pushed up and it's all superheated, and then it runs down, runs off. And we see that as well. We see mud flows. If you go to Google Earth, I just did an interview or chat with Dustin from Berserker Bear, and we were showing all these mud flows.
Oh, I remember seeing, yes.
Literally, and it looks like it's flowed and then stopped as it's cooled.
Wow.
Yeah. So then there's more to it. There's cave paintings. In cave paintings, we're told, hundreds of thousands of years old because they fit nicely so that into this linear timeline, right? We started at one point, moved forward. Everything's linear. It's not cycles. All these cave paintings, there's heaps of them, and they have all these different, similar designs all over the world. One of them's it looks like a stick figure of a man, but the arms are sort of curled up and the feet are sort of bent down. It's got a dot on each side. And they're found all over the world in caves. Now, what they've found recently is when people have been doing experiments with plasma, creating plasma in vacuum tubes, they get that same picture. The plasma makes that picture at certain frequencies.
Really? Wow.
And there's other ones too. There's like a torus one, and they show all these different stages of frequencies as the charge is building. It changes, And so basically the way that plasma acts as it's charging, about to discharge, looks exactly the same as all the cave paintings all over the world. So is this something that they saw in the sky? And it was big enough that they went, wow, let's paint it. We better paint that. Let's remember that. But also, it got down because they were in caves. They were safe.
Yeah,
So
right.
I think, I think that's what we're looking at.
So I'm not sure from what I'm hearing. Are you more of a heliocentric model person, or do you have an opinion on the shape of the Earth or anything? I don't remember hearing this in your videos.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're not spinning through space. I mean, parallax, right? Parallax gives it away. The thing is, we have these people called astrologers, right? And we have things called star signs, and they tell us, well, we're all born in a month, so you're a Leo, or you're a Pisces, or you're an Aquarius, But the thing about star signs is a star sign is not a group of stars that are together, right? That's not what a star sign is. In the model of an expanding universe, a star sign is just completely random planets at all different distances from the Earth, but from our perspective, when we look at them, they make a certain shape, and that's the star sign, right? That's what they tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so how can completely random stars that are not associated with each other, that are all different distances from the Earth, how can they all join and affect people down here? And apart from that, how long is astrology been going? You can read about astrology in books that, or the Bible, right? 6,000 years, they tell us at least. So they're trying to tell us that we're spinning through space, I think, 666,000, no doubt, miles an hour. And in 6,000 years of doing that, the stars we look at haven't changed at all. At all.
We're spinning and spinning and spinning and chasing the sun and flying through space, and the stars haven't changed. How?
Stars haven't changed. And they tell us we're going in an orbit, right? So we're going around. So not only is our perspective changing going forward, it's changing on the curve as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine, these stars would literally turn like that. As we spin around them, our perception would make them turn like that, and they would make different star signs.
Right.
It doesn't make sense at all. It's just...
I guess that kind of fired up the chat a little bit. I guess if anybody in the chat thinks it is heliocentric, put a 1. And if you think it's flat, put a 2. And if you think it's something else, put a 3.
Giant elephants, maybe giant statues. Yes.
Shout out to all the chats, by the way. Appreciate everybody being here. You have a lot of your fans here, sir.
Yeah, how many have we got on? I can't even see. Got a few there. All right. There's more down here.
Shamanic says these cave paintings could be
plasma sonic patterns. Yeah. Shamanic.
You got it.
Sorry?
No, yeah, that's it. What do you think about that? Did he nail it?
So was that, what do I think of the... Yeah, so... I mean, the Earth... when you look into this, you start looking at a lot of old maps. And when you look at old maps, again, big problems. Big problem. Apart from the fact that when you go back pre... sort of 1550... there are 4 continents at the North Pole in all the maps. It's called Hyperborea. They've apparently disappeared. Right. South America used to be joined to Antarctica. There's a map 1576 planisphere, I think. I might have it on the wall behind me. It shows Hyperborea in the middle, and then it shows other continents on the outside. And they're named. It shows animals on them, weird animals. It
Weird
shows
animals.
in South America,
Absolutely.
it shows giants. In Patagonia, it shows giants, and they're called giants. And when you look into the journals of the people who discovered South America, they say that there's drawings of them, the meeting with the giants down in Patagonia. So this was 400 or 500 years ago. So the world was very, very, very different to what we know. And unfortunately, it just looks like, everyone's sort of got, put back a bit from some event, plasma event, whatever it was, what probably wiped out the electricity grids, stopped a lot of their tech, but basically put everyone back, back in the Stone Age almost. Apart from a few who then went out and sailed around the world and basically tried to enslave everyone and destroy the old civilization so that they could take over, because, and everyone says, why would you do that? Why would they do that? Well, it's for control, because all they're after is control. If the old world had free electricity, that means that they can't charge us for electricity. So they destroyed it. Look into Tesla. Tesla drove around Coney Island in a car that didn't have an engine in it. All it had was an antenna sticking out the boot and something in the boot, but he didn't show anyone what it was, but it had no engine in the car. And this was in the 30s. In the 70s, there was a guy in the USA. He built a dune buggy that ran off. He literally just filled it up from his tap. And he was driving that around for years, and he was trying to get it on the market. And then he went in one night, stood up and said, "I think I've been poisoned," and fell over dead.
Oh,
So this is still going on. All these good ideas, and they're still coming out. They're just being stolen. You're not allowed to go up against the system, right? You're not allowed to do that. If you have an idea that will take money from them, nah. That's not allowed. They buy it, and then when they want to use it and they can profit from it, then they'll take it over and say it's ours. Yeah, we created this. We invented it. JP Morgan told Tesla, if you can't put a meter on it, I don't want it. Yeah. JP Morgan was the financier for Tesla. It's called Widenhaven. Is that right? No, Widencliff, the tower that he built. And that tower is like the old world towers. It's a big tower with a big dome on top of it. And yeah, basically it was going to transmit free energy that people could pick up. And yeah, basically when JP Morgan found out, he had it demolished.
was that the one in Colorado Springs, Colorado? I know he did some project here. Was that the one?
So, yeah.
Wow. Yep. I just heard about that recently.
Yeah, so all these, and the guy who created Orgonite, I found out a few weeks ago. Don't know if you know about Orgonite, but it's, supposed to basically attract and clean energy, ethereal energy. And, of course, we've got all these people, oh, no, it's crap, it doesn't work. But when you look into the story, the guy who invented it, did it, he wrote books, he would publish his books, no one would publish his work. The FBI ended up getting him, getting all of his research, all of his material, and took it out to a field and made him set fire to it, destroyed the lot, and then threw him in jail, and he died in jail.
Wow.
So you tell me if that tech works or not. And this is such a common story. It happens all the time. And then what you get in the news or in the mainstream is everyone goes, oh, no, that's stupid. No, Orgonite's crap. It doesn't work. It's just airy-fairy, hippie crap or whatever, or conspiracy theory. And all they have to do is put a few stories out on the news and the parrots come out and they just repeat and repeat and repeat. And then everyone thinks it's true.
Yes. Yes.
Today there is a Tesla roadster in space.
I still can't get beyond that. That's just ridiculous. That is the most ridiculous game changer in my opinion, and I just can't get beyond that. And so many people it just doesn't compute.
What's that? The Tesla?
Just in my opinion, it's ridiculous that the Tesla Roadster's in space for so many reasons.
You know, I didn't even realize that they were trying to say that was real. I just thought it was just a joke, just a meme.
I did too at first
because I saw it. I just saw the footage, and I like literally for months. I didn't realize that they were trying to say that was real. And then Elon Musk comes along and he goes, "Well, you know it's real because it looks so fake."
Yes,
like that's literally word for word what he says.
Yes.
Okay, Elon. Yeah, that makes sense. Now that's called predictive programming, right? It's like the mouse. How did they explain the mouse away?
The mouse, right?
Remember that?
Didn't they say it was like ice or some weird thing? Ridiculous.
Did that? Have you've seen that footage?
Around the rocket,
there's
right?
A rocket in space, yeah, and a mouse just crawling around the outside.
Yeah, I think they said it was ice or something.
Ice.
Something, I don't know.
And this is what they kind of have to do. It's like they've made this story, but they haven't made it really that well. And so people keep coming on and go, but what about this? And they sort of have to go, and they just go, and give some stupid answer to try and get out of it. But then they have to stick with that narrative. They kind of have to stick with that stupid answer and try and make other things fit into it. And it just ends up being just a big, ridiculous joke. I mean, this is a star fort.
Look at that.
The story with these is built to defend against war, for war, right? The first one was built in Italy in the 1500s, and then the French got onto it, and so they're also called bastion forts. And if you look in Wikipedia, they say there's something like 30 of them or something. Not many. Wow. I can't remember the figure. Under 100, I think, in the world. Now we've found over 5,000. They're everywhere. They're all through America. They're in Australia. I found them in Australia. Now in Australia wasn't found until, apparently until 1788. And they say all of these star forts were built between 1500 and 1700. But we've got them, and we weren't. Apparently, there was no one here for 100 years after that. So they give these stories, and it hits points that they get stuck, and they can't explain around them, and they start. And so the story is no, they're not star forts. So were the forts built in World War II to defend Australia. Now, if you've seen a map of the world, if you want to attack Australia, you need a very big fleet because we're a long way from anywhere. And if anyone was going to attack Australia, it would be the top. But the top of Australia, the north, places like Darwin, and Darwin did get attacked, but there's no forts in Darwin. They didn't build forts there. They built them down in Sydney and Melbourne and in Tasmania. Now, Tasmania is an island at the bottom of Australia. Like, it's literally... they use it to go to Antarctica, but there's a star fort there built. But no, they say it's a fort built to defend World War II in case someone came and attacked.
That's ridiculous.
And then
your work on the star forts.
How long does it take? Sorry,
your work on the star forts is surprising. I mean, it's just it's just. That has so many levels to it.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, this one's buried, but you can see these are all walls, and these are houses and streets and things. This is a massive cathedral in the middle there. See this? That's one of those huge old world cathedrals. So you can imagine how big this thing is, right? This is almost like a small town, pretty much inside it. So how much brick and stuff do you reckon went into the walls here to build this outside wall?
Yeah.
And there's also multiple walls, by the way. Now,
What do
how
they have
long
to
would it take
defend
to build that?
against?
Because and to defend, but this is if they're building it for defense, it's like they say, oh, there was a war starting, so they built this fort. What? You're not going to have it finished by the time the enemy gets there.
Right.
I mean, the only way this would work is if everyone went, I let's have a war in 10 years. Everyone go
Exactly.
away, build your forts, like a board game, like we play Risk or something. Everyone go and get set up, then we'll come back and attack each other. Because how on earth can you construct this? If you're at war, what, you're going to be putting all your labor, your men, and your resources into building a fort when you're at war?
Right.
I mean, shouldn't it all be
Or
going into like weaponry and things like this? Practical things. And wouldn't you just build a wall?
exactly.
I mean, it just
And why?
and
Look at that
apart from the
shape.
shapes, right? Cymatics.
Yeah. Huh.
Michael de Silva, hello. This one's in America. This is in the US. So I mean, and the same thing. They just kind of explain it away as, oh, it was just a fort built for whatever. There's not really much of a story, but you see this a lot. See how they're always buried. So like the buildings that we just saw, these go under the ground too. There's a lot more of these under the ground. But look at that and look at, imagine trying to build that precisely. Like, it's perfect.
Exactly. I was just thinking that.
Perfect. And of course,
How?
built by, unskilled, untrained laborers with no tech, no electricity, probably not even steam, machinery.
How
But they're building
old do we
this,
expect
right?
these go?
You what?
How old do you expect these things are? Some of them.
Oh, sorry, you keep breaking up. Do I?
How old do you think they are?
Oh, how old? Yeah. Old. They have to be older than the buildings, because as you see, they're full of buildings, right? So I think these, I'd say yeah, over 1,000. I think the buildings, the old world buildings are about 1,000 years, 800 to 1,000, as a minimum. And so these would be, older than that, 1,500, 2,000, but they could be 10,000, because we don't know how big they are. But the thing is also is, it's like with temples, and we know the story, right? They tell us, oh, they always build temples on the sites of old temples. They just build on top of the old ones. And it's because of the energy in the ground. So see how this looks like a cymatic pattern?
Oh, yes.
Cymatic
That is amazing.
shape.
That's cool. And I
Yeah.
like that. Where is
This
this one?
is Holland. Holland. What's it called? I can't remember the name, but yeah, it's in Holland. Basically, the best places, for the most intact ones, Holland and the Netherlands. They got ridiculous ones, and I mean, so you can see this one. So every time you see something like this, there's at least a lot more around the outside, and you can see this keeps going off out here. So they were built on energy points. And I think they were just healing centers. If you go down, they've all got their cathedrals. They've all got the water. They've all got the fountains and statues and all these things. All these, they all seem to have components. They all have the same. Like, they all have normally 3 or 4 cathedrals. They have the shapes. They have the water. I'm just trying to find where the cathedral is here. This must be it. They must have changed it, because all the old world cathedrals, when you look at them from above, they're pretty much always in the shape of a cross. Oh. Fort Independence. So this is a buried one. Westeros, the Targaryens. Yes, exactly right. They love to drop their hints in shows. But yeah, this one's in America, and look how buried it is and old. And they kind of give the same story for this as for that last one we saw, but this one looks much older and much more decrepit, but they'll tell you it was built the same time as this one.
Ooh, that one
But then how's this? Oh, there you go. There's a nice one. This is Pamplona, Italy. And again, you can see this is now a hexagon. So this is six-sided. So see, it's got different geometry. That's 5. That's 5. So they have different geometry. They're all 5s. You get 6s, you get 8s, you get circles, and all these different shapes. What's this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
Why are there arrows?
Six-sided. So this one is Russia, I guess. But again, see how it's just covered. We can see the shape, but even the walls are actually covered in dirt. That's all plants and stuff growing on it, grass.
What's up with
It's actually all covered and up on a hill. This one. This is
What's up with those shapes, Campbell?
Fort Jefferson. Have you seen this place?
I have not. Where is that? Oh, that's off New York too, isn't
Fort Jefferson. This is off the coast of Florida in the Keys.
Oh, okay.
It is 200 miles from shore.
Really?
And they say it was built out there as a fort. Yeah. And to top it off, it's the largest red brick building in the USA.
I think I remember that fact from one of your videos, actually. Yes.
And look at this. They even built a moat for it in the ocean.
They built...
Now, this, so see this 1, 2, 6-sided, right? What that is that, well, yeah, this, like the centerpiece of a star. That's a 5-sided one, but it's basically the center of a big star. There's a lot more of that that's obviously been sunk in and this is, again, the water levels have changed as well. We have islands that appear and disappear and coastlines change, and like California used to be an island not that long ago. 16 million, yes, thank you, Jim. 16 million red bricks. I couldn't remember if it was 16 or 60, so I didn't say anything, so thank you, Jim. Now, the thing about this is on an atoll in the ocean, right, built for defense. Now, I mean, it's not a big picture, but you can imagine that this is surrounded by ocean, right? So if you were coming to attack, and this is, obviously not going to be attacking the fort, you're going to try and get past it to attack Florida, right?
Right.
Wouldn't you just sail around it?
Exactly.
I mean, what's their best defense, so we're told, was cannons. So all you need to do is be farther enough, be further than they can shoot their cannonballs. And what use is this?
Is there any antiquitech in there? Any signs of like a tower?
No, there's in some old pictures, there's sort of some remnants. It's actually quite a big building. Like this in here, this is like a 3-story building. It's like barracks.
Campbell, what about the possibility of it going down and maybe extending out somewhere?
It would definitely would. I've had a look, but I can't find much. It looks like it's all just sort of crumbled away into the ocean, and now they're using it to grow oysters or something. Yeah, I nearly got an oyster farm and out here. But it's just a tourist attraction, I think. And sorry,
Do you think it could possibly have, like a depth underneath it? Like it, can you see where it
For
ends?
sure, definitely. Yep. Pretty much every star. See this how it's. This is a star, but see how it's up on a hill, up on a mound.
Yeah.
See that?
Yes. Huh.
You can see it's up on a mound. That's because it's buried. And we see this is what we see with buildings all the time. It's almost like a joke now. You see like a Capitol building or a school or something. They're always, a meter or two above the ground. It's just everywhere. Like this one here. See, there you go. See how it's built up over above the ground. So yeah, there's always more. And look at this. You can almost even see the wall, the outer wall there.
Totally.
It's been buried. And a lot of them, you see the walls under the ground. If there's lots of trees, you'll see lines in the trees, and that's where the walls are under the ground, and so the trees can't grow big when they're on top of them. Is that one? So this is Woerden in the Netherlands, another big one. And in the Netherlands, they just go and live in them. They just build houses inside them and live in them. So I don't know what the energy's like. It's probably a pretty nice place to live. But the other thing is, we didn't know that these were stars until we had Google Earth. It's like the
Exactly.
the Nazca lines. Until you're above them, you don't realize what they are.
Right. I always think about that. Where'd they get the bird's eye view to build those?
So this is the Citadel of Ville. Now you were asking about levels underground.
Look at
Look
that.
how many levels this one's got. So this is obviously an older map. This is probably 1600s or so. So when we're looking, and we've seen ones that look pretty much exactly like that, right? I've pointed on the top with the Citadel in the middle. So you can imagine what's under the ground.
Yeah.
And I think we have a picture of that one. So that's Lille in France. And yeah, this is it.
I have a rich imagination.
Right, is this. Okay, so we've got one, two, at least 4 layers there going underground. We've got we can see the second one just. So this is what I was talking about, the trees. See this line?
Yeah.
Now you can see the outline. Oh, actually, maybe that's a moat. It might be a moat. But it looks like that. You see like lines like this. And it's because, the trees can't grow on top of the walls. But this is... So just with that, you can imagine what's under the ground. And see this? This is
It looks
another
like a sheriff's badge.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Which, this is another thing, right? Stars... everything's stars. That's a whole nother sort of thing, but stars and energy, and they call Hollywood, actors stars, and Walk of Fame, connection to the sky, right? What is this? As above, so below. I think stars are. When I was looking into plasma. I read this article, and they literally said, and this is such a big giveaway. They said that they were creating stars out of plasma in vacuum tubes.
Really?
Yeah, out of plasma, just out of electricity. So this whole story of look, it's a big ball of fuel that can burn forever. That's why it's so big. It'll just burn forever because it doesn't burn out. They can create them. So I don't know if you've seen the photos of the planets, and there's even there's some of the moon where you can see through. You can see stars through the moon.
Yes.
And there's lots of the planets, and you can literally, they look like, I don't know, they just look like little electrical discs or something. I don't know, shapes, don't they?
Yeah, just luminaries
that are moving. Yeah. Luminaries, and that's what they used to be called. And we used to have the stars, and we used to have the wandering stars. They weren't, plain ets. It's the thing, right? The plane with the T,
Mhm.
with the cross that they put on the end there. Yeah, they were luminaries. So, this is the whole. How much have they changed this story? How many stories tell us? Obviously Anunnaki literally means those who from the heavens came. Came from the heavens down to earth, and we have all these stories, angels and different beings coming from the heavens down to earth. And what are they? What's really going on here?
Yeah.
Egyptian. The Egyptians went. Their funeral rites were all about getting ready and then going back in through using stars as stargates. Basically, is what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Are they intelligent? Are the planets maybe the gods, right? Because all the
Yeah.
planets
Maybe.
basically are the gods, right? Mars, Jupiter, they're all gods. They are the gods.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, what do the gods do? The gods make the rules. The gods, create what's down here on Earth. All this stuff. It sounds a lot like an electric kind of system, and and they may be intelligent, wise entities, but I don't. They're not clearly not beings like us. I don't think that have come down and walked amongst us and all this kind of stuff. That's something else. That's more likely what's come in and what's sort of destroyed the good. And of course, we have, aliens, right? What they called extraterrestrials.
Right.
Extra means more, terrestrial means land. So they're from more land. Extraterrestrials got nothing to do with space or planets or anything. This means more land.
Agreed.
So are there people coming from other places? I mean, I could talk all night.
Yeah. Right.
Antarctica, because everything's connected. Everything's just so connected. Antarctica and New Schwabenland back in the 1940s with Hitler and all this kind of stuff.
And Tool and all that.
Of course, one big thing is the symbol, the swastika that they decided to adopt. That's an ancient symbol. It's one of the most ancient symbols we have. Interesting
I just
that
found it
he
very
chose
fascinating
that
on that.
ancient symbol. Then we know that they ran around the earth looking for ancient tech. That's literally what they were doing, looking for tech from the old world. Then they ended up in Antarctica. Apparently, an animal bird went down there and they had a big fight, and there were UFO type things flying around. But then what happened? They've disappeared. So think about that story, right? We're told that, the Nazis were the worst thing ever. They just wanted to kill everyone, blah, blah, blah. And then we know that they get to Antarctica, they've got superior weaponry. They just destroyed Admiral Byrd, basically. Wasn't even a fight. And then what? They've done nothing. They didn't come back and take over the world. Why did they?
Yeah.
They could have taken the whole world over, right? Back in the 50s or 40s. It seems that they could have done it quite easily. Now, why didn't they? Are they still there? Did they find something on the other side? Admiral Byrd, right, on the Longines chronoscope, said that there was tons more land out there.
Yes.
So did they literally escape? Did they get out of Middle Earth?
I've wondered that, man. That's possible. What do you think about the whole NIMSA society and all that? Are you familiar with that stuff?
What was that? That NUNZA?
The NIMSA society, like the breakaway society with the airships and things.
Oh, I don't think I've
that
heard
had to do with the. Yeah, it has to do. I think it's Walter Bosley's work, maybe. But yeah, NIMSA, and it was a breakaway society of essentially Nazis and others, I believe, who had these amazing airships back in the early or late 1800s, I suppose. But that maybe yeah. So
That Bosworth that you mentioned rings a bell. There was, when you go back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were quite a few expeditions in airships, dirigibles and this kind of thing, out over the North Pole. Literally, they were flying. And this is the thing, they were flying out there, they were checking out, they had boats there, same in Antarctica, and then blah, 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 suddenly, everything stopped. But everything just didn't stop. They then got together, all the world leaders, and said, let's decide to make not just laws that no one can go north or south. Let's actually put warships to patrol to make sure no one goes there. Well, what did they find? What happened? Like it literally went from, the last frontier, the place for the greatest explorers, the bravest men. Oh yeah, to no one's going there or we kill you.
Right.
I mean,
right. And the Antarctic
so you've got
Treaty.
to wonder what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Antarctic and Arctic treaties. You can't go there. They will literally shoot at you with people who've tried it. You get shot at by warships. So what happened to the New Schwaberland? I mean, because if they had all that tech, pretty sure they're not sitting down under the ice, imprisoning themselves.
And they're not protecting us from anything major because
when they could just come out and take over.
Right.
And then, of course, the question is, if they were so evil and they had all that tech, why didn't they take over? So is that story a bit backwards too?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe the awakened the old ones and they're defending us from destruction.
It's all up for grabs.
But the whole idea of what's out there, that's so wild. It's because he mentioned both resources, right? That endless resources and things that we could use forever, basically, and but also the need to defend and prepare for war or something, right? Kind of a mixed message. Am I getting that right about Bird?
Yeah. It was. He basically said that there were heaps of resources, heaps of land. It was like opportunities for brave young men. But then he started talking about, defending it or something strange. Can't remember exactly. But he did definitely start talking about war. Just things that, like, if it was empty and if it was just snow, there was nothing there. Snow, a few polar bears. Who are you defending against?
Mm-hmm.
And really, what opportunity is there? And for brave young men in basically a desert of snow, there's nothing there.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, it's ridiculous. And if you're talking the Arctic, you're talking, you've got to dig a kilometre down just to get through the snow before you even hit the ground. So even mining and stuff is just pretty ridiculous. So I've got some maps somewhere. I've got so much stuff here.
Random thought: have you looked into Amelia Earhart at all, or Howard Hughes?
Not a lot, but it'd probably be something good to look into.
Just random passing thought.
So things like this. This is, as far as I know, this is like a reproduction of an older map, apparently. So we don't. I can't say that this is actually real, but it's interesting. This is the Earth that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle here, we've got the sun. We've got 2 moons, set, and I can't read that. I basically put 2 moons there, and then it looks like an ice wall, and then on the outside we've got more lands, and look, more moons, another
more
sun.
Moons.
Got things like Thoth, and see here it says old moon, old moons,
Old moons.
Because have you heard the theory that Saturn used to be the sun?
Okay, I was just thinking of
I think
something that I have to tell you, but go ahead with that, please.
I think it was Velikovsky who first suggested that there may have been some kind of change with the planets, but as far as antiquity, you know, Saturn apparently that was the sun. And of course, Saturn is very close to Satan and all this kind of stuff. But so if that's true, you know, if the planets are luminaries, you know, do they change position? You know, does the sun that we know, you know, sort of get smaller and less bright, and one of the planets takes its place? And has that happened in the past? Because, you know, a lot of people at the moment are saying that the sun's a different color. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yes.
A lot of people are saying the sun's a different color.
I feel that it is.
It's gone from a sort of deep yellow to a more whitey, sort of, you know, bluey white kind of light yellow.
Yep. Do you feel that too?
Is it the same sun? So is it the same sun? Is it even, you know, is it even the same sun? Did it change?
You know, okay, so I had a weird experience one time, just a couple of years ago, before I had heard anything about this from anybody else. But long story short, I saw two sources of light in the sky. It looked like there were two suns, and it was a cloudy day. And it blew my mind. I took pictures of it. I don't know if I still have them around or whatever, but there were two sources of light. And ever since then, I've been looking at this. Say again?
I've seen video footage of it and photos.
Dude.
Especially in Antarctica, when they take photos, they often see two. And there's lots at sunset. You'll see there's a lot of video, and you'll see the sun go down, and then there's another one behind it that sort of goes down just after it, or down, you know, out, however it is, a movement.
Wow.
So, and this was sort of going on for the last few years, right? So is this, you know, is this something's coming? You know, it sort of takes a while now. It's changed, because look around. Do you think anything else has changed down here? I think the energies might have changed a tad. You know, and isn't it interesting? You know, everyone, oh, it's just astrology. It's just astrology. It's just crap. But we've just been through a change of ages. Well, we're actually in the middle of it. We're going to be fully in Aquarius March 4th. So it's a change of age. And look what happened last year. Like, literally, society is collapsing. It's collapsing for no apparent reason. Well, you know, obviously, you know, those who wish to rule are a lot to try and get it to go in their direction and keep control. But a lot of it's just, I'm pretty sure it's out of their hands. It's just, and this is the big deception, isn't it? This is why we were never taught astrology and astronomy. Why we weren't, you know, even in the Bible, it literally says, don't look up, don't, you know, study that stuff.
Right.
But it's almost the most important information, isn't it? If you can read the sky clock in the sky, and you can tell what's happening and what's coming up and what energies are affecting the earth and everything, you can build a civilization with the buildings like we've seen, because you're in harmony, you're working with it, you know what's going to happen. And I'm sure that, you know, the deletes know this information, and I'm sure that going to the age of Aquarius scared them crapless, because they know they're going to lose control. And that's all they have. They're so, you know, that these people are so pathetic. It's like Bill Gates, that bloody transgender whatever thing he is, and his husband. He's the richest man in the world, or one of them. He's what, top 3 still, I think, richest man in the world. But all he can think of is to make more money, and he's what, almost 70 or something. I mean, these people aren't humans. Humans would just be like, oh, dude, I'm not working. I'm going to sit on an island. I'm going to have fun. But these people, they don't do that. They just keep going until they die. That's all they want is power and control and money, and that's that's why they're not us. That's the biggest clue that they're not us. Humans just wouldn't do it. Humans just would not. It's like, because these guys spend their whole lives, they go and have meetings, and their whole lives are around how to manipulate us. That's literally what they live for. That's it. And you talk to a human, that's the last thing on a human's mind. A human's like, just leave me the hell alone to live my life. Just F off. But these, parasites are completely the opposite. They're just like, nah. So their mentality just must be crazy to be them. They imagine what goes on in their heads.
I can't.
It's like these tweets you see. Because Rush Limbaugh just died, and all these people are like tweeting, "Haha, sucked in." Have you seen that?
Right.
It's disgraceful. That's Hyperborea. Anyone who hasn't seen it? That's up in the
love
Arctic.
that map.
The four continents. It's not a very good picture. I've got
I love maps.
see even up here. See, is this what we got here in Europe? Yeah, see, look up here. We've got New Zembla. Ever heard of New Zembla? So we've got these islands up where they shouldn't be. This is Greenland, right? Greenland, and look, above Greenland, we've got a big landmass. What's that doing there? And I don't know if you can read that. They've extended it, but basically it says pygmy Horu, I think. But a lot of these maps up here, one of the land masses always has pygmies written on it.
Pygmies.
Pygmies, little people.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, we have pygmies. And this is the thing. I found this out myself, that there were like native pygmies in Australia, like tribes of them, like proper, sort of 3.5 foot people, up into the 50s. Now, I'd never heard of them. I've never seen one. As far as I know, they do not exist anymore. But I found photos in the 50s, not very long ago, in the 50s, with pygmies. And I went and asked my mum. I said, because it was in Queensland, and my mum's from Queensland, I said, do you know about pygmies? And she's like, oh, yeah, we knew about the pygmies. Yeah, we all knew about them. They were out there. And I'm like, why did you never tell me that? So it just shows you that was common knowledge.
I remember my dad talking about pygmies, yeah.
I'm her child, and I knew nothing about it at all. All right, you want to know how easy it is to erase history? There you go. If people aren't talking about it, not sharing the information, it's lost. Because now if you tell people, yeah, look, there's land up at the North Pole, I laugh at you, but it's on all the maps.
Something still sticks out in my head from one of your shows. I think I forget her name. Maybe it'll come to me. It was recent, anyway. I've lost my thought now. It'll come back to me.
Talking about some lady. And look at this. This is supposedly. I mean, look at the edges of this, by the way. This is from Google Earth. Look at the edges. I can't even get it bloody round. But when you look at, the Earth, half of it, at least, I mean, it's more, it's 70%, but the Pacific Ocean is literally half their ball planet. And there's nothing there.
Right.
There could be more lands here. Because, who would know? Who's flying out there checking? Who's taking boats out and checking this stuff? We just have to basically believe what they tell us.
Exactly. I remember what it was. Your the photos you showed of Iran in like the 1970s looked like, or I think it was the 70s, right? It was a totally different place.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how the children now they wouldn't know that at all. I mean, I didn't know that was the truth of Iran, and
No.
it's just erased.
Yeah, go to Google or, DuckDuckGo, even better, and just search, Iran fashion in the 70s. And these dudes, they were cool, man. They were like full,
They
they were,
were.
full on consumers. They had the fashion, they had all the stuff, the whole, because
Leisure
it's
suits
on the
and
water,
Mhm.
right? It's actually a really nice place. They had like ocean hotels and resorts all up the beach. And now you go and look, and there's just smashed, destroyed buildings all up their beach. It was
Wow.
like Rio. You know Rio? You see Rio and you see it right on the beach, all those buildings. It's like that,
Mhm.
but now they're just destroyed, and it's literally just, like you say, there's no more fashion because they changed the religion first and things, and that's illegal. And then, you've got to ask yourself why are they blowing the crap out of that place and those people. What they same thing. They just won't give up, will they? That whole area, Petra, they destroyed, and that whole area is supposed to be the biblical area. And of course, they try and tell us that it's just always been a desert, right? And have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered, like at school, when they talk about the cradles of civilization, everyone
Right.
is in a desert. Have you ever noticed that? Like that?
Yes.
How does that
How did we
possibly make
survive?
any sense to anyone? That's
Exactly.
ridiculous. What the story is they're the centers, but they were lush and subtropical areas, because we've seen the books with the drawings, and none of them are pictured as dead. And then when you look at the buildings out there, they've all been melted or something, smashed, like destroyed, like melted, like literally melted. If you look at Sodom and Gomorrah and all these places and they tell us, the stories tell us they were melted, and we go and look at them now and they're melted. So the Middle East, something massive hit the Middle East, and also North Africa. Used to be covered in castles, rivers, roads. I've got maps from I think that one's from about late 1400s, and it was just covered in towns, castles.
Wow.
So this is the thing. When you look back, it's only, and like I say, it's only 500-600 years ago. It looked like the whole Earth was covered in these towns made out of these amazing architecture and buildings. They were all joined up. They were joined with water. They had different. They didn't have cars and internal combustion engines, but they had really good transport systems. As far as we can tell, they had. You've got your cities where you walk around. They might have had bikes or something. Then they have the canals, and they can get around a smaller area. Then they have the trains, and those train tracks went everywhere. That was how you sort of got from city to city. And then they had the airships and dirigibles, and that's how you went further and went overseas. And
Yes.
all of those things, none of them are bad for the environment. I mean, with trains, you can say, okay, sure, they're burning wood, but train's not really giving off much, a bit of steam, maybe a bit of soot. Traveling on a canal, you're just using the water current, and this is, words, right? Current, electricity,
Yes.
water current. Yeah, it just takes it down there. So all that got cut. And so that's why on all these star forts, you'll see all the canals, they've all been cut, and they fill in bits of them to stop them flowing. So clearly something was working well, and I don't think it was it looks like it was a natural event that went boom and reset everything. Actually, that last one, have you seen this? This is like some people think the moon might be a reflection of the Earth. Have you come across that?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
There's a theory that the moon is a reflection of the bigger Earth.
I did see that.
Seeing that, yeah. So, for example, like this, I think it is this bit here. You know, sort of looks like the Earth, and then it looks like there's all this other land and stuff around. So I don't know. Who knows, right? I mean, this is. They tell us that the moon, you know, is bright because it reflects the sunlight, don't they? But if you go and say, "Oh, could it reflect the Earth?" Oh, no, don't be stupid. Only reflects one type of thing. So yeah, this is it, crater Earth. That's basically the Earth there in one crater of the moon. And so the theory is that the moon is literally a reflection of the bigger, or a part of maybe the bigger flat Earth.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember
and this is
whose
the
work I
problem when
saw
you
on that.
don't get information. You know, sorry?
I remember watching someone's work on that. I don't remember who, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a channel, and I can't pronounce it. It's, yeah, I don't know, a Russian guy. But this, you know, we've got to nut this out and try and find it out. So we really have to sort of, you know, look at all. You know, we're at the point where, you know, nothing's out of reach. Basically, it could be anything. You know, we've come across so much info that we don't know what the truth is, and we've just got to keep tracking it down, find out what matches with reality, and then discard the rest. So, you know, if the moon's a reflection of the Earth and there's a lot more land, you know, is there more land out there? Is that what they're hiding? You know, did the giants leave maybe because the atmosphere changed? This was, do you remember this? So this was the 50s. So in the 40s, you know, World War II, Antarctica, New Schwabenland, you know, Admiral Byrd, wars, UFOs, and then less than a decade later, UFOs are on the Capitol building in Washington. It's in camera. They've got footage of it, like actual footage, and they started shooting at them. They started shooting rockets and things at them. And these UFOs just sort of flew around, didn't fly back, and they were just like showing off almost, just sort of flying around going, ha ha, you can't hit us. And then they took off. So who was that? You know, I mean, you know, that's within a decade of you know, confirmed sightings by an admiral of the Navy, Admiral Byrd, of disc-shaped objects that came out and basically destroyed his army. And now they're up in Washington. You know, so UFOs, right? I mean, and this is the whole thing, this whole alien thing.
That's a huge.
You know, they've got to invent this thing, and it's more fear as well, isn't it? Oh, they're going to come and attack us. They're going to come and attack us. But it's also the other thing, isn't it? It's also, oh, they're going to come and save us. They're going to come and save us. So now,
Right.
I don't have to do anything. I can sit on my butt and watch Netflix because, what are they called? The Galactic Alliance or something. I don't know. They're going to come and save us.
Right.
It would be nice, but I mean, we definitely can't rely on that.
Well, Ronald Reagan planted that in our consciousness, right?
Yeah. If we were attacked from outer space, we would all find a common bond or something.
Something like that.
So, yeah, here's another pic of them. You know?
I am fascinated with that whole topic.
Since then, you know, that's very close to Roswell time date. So this, you know, this whole, you know, UFO thing, it also got introduced pretty quickly. You know, if you go back and talk to people in their 80s and that, they don't really remember UFOs back in when they were young. You know, I mean, so there's many, you know, if they just, because the thing about UFOs, right, if there's UFOs and it's an infinite universe, then there would be countless different races down here already, right? If it's infinite, right? The word infinite is where they stuff up. If it's infinite, then there's infinite races that are technologically advanced enough to get here.
Right.
And so
Logical.
that's the biggest giveaway, right?
Mhm.
That because they're not here, or are they, or is there something else hidden here? There's definitely not a big, major race, but there might be some other beings that
Definitely
aren't
possible.
powerful enough, aren't technological enough to take over, but are scheming enough and have low enough, morals and ethics that they can kind of worm their way in. Especially when people are, doing it hard, maybe, their city evacuated because it got hit by a piece of plasma. And they just come in and, get them and give them the new narrative, right? I will help you out. We'll help you out. Yeah. Just come and work for me. See this house? Yeah, you can live there. Yeah. 10 years later, it's like, you didn't work your extra 2 hours this week. You got to move out of your house.
They're living in the
They
soap
gotcha.
village.
Yeah, in the village. And this is
Modern day soap
this is
village.
where we are now. Like everything's an offer and acceptance, right? Everything. They just offer us stuff. But when they offer it, they give us all the benefits. Oh, it'll give you this and this and this and this and this. It's like when you buy a house, everyone likes a house. It's nice. It'll be yours. You have shelter. You can do this. It's in a nice area. People think you're cool. So there's all these benefits. But then you have to pay interest for 30 years and basically pay back 2.5 times what
On a
you thought
mortgage.
you bought the house for. Yeah, the death pledge, right? And so it's all about, their system is all about offering, and then we have to accept. No one comes around to your house and smashes the door down, puts a gun to your head and said, here's a mortgage, you sign this now, or else. We have to go looking for it, or put ourselves in a situation where it's going to happen. But what's happening now is people are starting to understand that there's choice there, and they can actually opt out. We can opt out of this system because they tell us they provide everything, but they don't. It's a double-edged sword, They sort of give with one hand, take away, give 10% with one hand, take away 90% with the other. And it's all wrapped up in a nice facade. And so that's the biggest thing at the moment is we have the time, we have choice. We can choose to say no this time. We can say, look, we're out. We're going to get on land and do our own thing because, back in the day, this is the thing. Oh, there's an enemy, guys. There's an enemy. They're going to come and kill you. And I guarantee you, none of these people here had ever seen the enemy before they joined up the army. They probably never been attacked.
Right.
Probably never had anything bad happen to them by this enemy. But look at them. They're all up with their guns ready to go and kill people.
Right.
And that's all because they've been fed fear and they've believed someone else's story.
Yes.
This is what it does. War. That's and people say, oh, why do you need to know history? Oh, why is it so important to research and get your own information? Well, because that. Because if you don't, you'll end a gun on your back, killing people you don't know for no reason. And this has been the story of the last 150 years.
Yes.
Oh, well, beyond the poles. So there's quite a few books that talk about land. They go into all the expeditions and things. And back in the 1500s, people were sailing up there. There's lots of accounts of it. There was no restrictions back then. The parasites hadn't completely taken over.
There are lots of old books about expeditions.
No planes fly over the Pacific. Did you know that?
Yes.
And this is another thing. Like I said before, the Pacific is, it's like literally half of their globe. You're not allowed to fly planes over there. Now, obviously, it's not a globe. But even on the disc, they could fly over it. I mean, they wouldn't need to because it's longer and everything. But is that also
Right.
because, you know, there's stuff out there that if we flew out there, we'd see other lands?
Yes.
You know, 'cause
Yeah,
back
there's
in
a
the
lot of
day,
mystery
people
about
lived
that
in,
whole thing. Oh boy.
yeah, we just don't know. And this, I think the biggest thing we need to understand is we don't know. And it's okay. It's okay to not know. And the more you know, you just end up knowing that you know less. You know, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
people are scared
Recognize
of
that
that.
there are lies, right? And the stories.
Yeah. People are scared of that. And this whole thing about, you know, conspiracy theories, and they go, well, why would the government do that? Really? Have you heard of war? You know what war is, right? You know what prison is? Hello? These people don't do good. But all these people back in the early 1900s, they were all up in the Antarctic, flying around. We've got books. Then, of course, we have the old world. You know, again, dirt roads. And look at this. I mean, you could find this building in any capital city.
Yes.
You know, which is the
All
other
across
thing, right? They're all Roman. Yeah, right. I mean, they're in South America, those buildings. I mean, and the story is, they were just, you know, keeping to the style. What is that? There you go. There's one of
Look
their
at that.
beasties.
That looks like
So they
a
had
dig
them.
lock, kind of.
And look at these things underneath it. So
Mm-hmm.
they're sort of dome things. Apparently there were 5. It's the drive. That's the power drive, anti-grav.
You're familiar with dig lock?
And so, you know, this is a thing that went. Sorry?
Are you familiar with the dig lock?
Big lock.
Yeah, the bell, the German bell, the Nazi bell.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, exactly. That was reminding me of that, like the
There's
bell with that technology of the
there's even footage of that. There's footage. Well, they say it's footage. You see, and it's like chained to the ground.
Yes.
And this is the thing. Before they built that, it's common knowledge that before that they spent 6-7 years traveling the world looking for ancient tech, and then what happens? They suddenly they've got ancient tech by the looks of it, you know, and they're flying around, and then they sort of come up, they show off to everyone, and then they disappear and haven't been seen for 70 years.
Right.
Expecting you to say, oh, hello, Barden. No worries, mate. And so this picture is another thing you find with wars, and the photos is they're all staged.
All of them, clearly.
They're all staged.
They're laughable almost.
And even when you look at these guys, especially this guy, that they don't look like the uniforms fit properly.
Right.
Right? Like you've seen the army today. Literally, if you're in the army, you've got I don't know if they're tailor, but everyone's uniform fits perfectly. These guys look like they've just found a box of trench coats and they've all grabbed one, and this guy's got the worst one. He doesn't even have collars. You know, a couple of them found little bags and stuff, and it's just completely staged. I mean, this is an old map.
A lot of times in the war pictures,
Jerusalem,
especially
the
Civil War ones, they don't look like soldiers at all.
No. And that's the story as well, isn't it, about wars? Is none of them were trained. You know, when they had wars, it was all conscription pretty much, wasn't it? They might have their, like, you know, little group of, you know, soldiers who protect the king, but pretty much everyone else, the story is, they just came along and grabbed a sword, no armor, and went out and just started hacking at each other.
Right.
I mean, that wouldn't have turned out very well, would it? Like,
Not so much.
and why would they? I mean, it's different if you've got a gun and you're sort of away and you're not, personally involved, and you can sort of sit back and go bang, and you don't even see the blood or anything. But to run up with someone with a
Can't feel
sword
it.
who you don't know,
Right.
who you've got no beef with, and to start hacking at them, and knowing that they're going to be hacking back. You get a
Exactly.
sword in the arm, that's a fairly dangerous. That's especially back then, apparently in the mud with no medicine, you're pretty much dead.
And
so,
when you're,
I mean, even though
you
I've
got to
heard that
feel the
story,
violence you're
and,
enacting on someone too. You got to feel that.
Yeah, you do.
It's not easy to do.
So there's big questions, and I mean, we know that wars, obviously they happen, but what wars are for? Wars are to destroy the old world and the old world buildings. That's all they do. They go in and they destroy these old world cities. This is from Google Earth. It's just a screenshot. This is the ocean up near Antarctica.
Wow.
And I found these cuts in the picture, and it's almost like, is that what's underneath? Is this a cover? This blue stuff? Because this doesn't look like water, does it? This is what we get for water.
Wow.
Did someone miss? Did someone not quite join them together? And is this really what's underneath? Is this showing lands or something?
Very possibly.
Because we know Google Earth is pretty sus. There's another one, and it was a seam. It went like halfway around the ball almost. But you can see that it looks like there's bits of land here. I don't know, maybe they're cloud or something. Or is that rock? I don't know. No.
It almost could be the moon.
Just cut through the ocean. And this is fake because they put their Google trademark on it, on the ocean. And they try and tell you it's a picture of the water, but it's all trademarked with Google. So yeah, a few of them. I mean, it's just... So who knows? Is this like that map we saw before showing the extra land? Oh, this is the dude. He was an Australian who went out over the Arctic.
Oh, really?
Oh, there you go. That's his name. So Hubert Wilkins. So there's
Look at that.
so much stuff. And and even with these photos, it's the same thing again, right? Like the mainstream just love to yell, "Oh, it's fake! It's fake! It's wow! Why would you believe that?" And blah 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 blah. But we have footage. There's footage and proper reports of these things flying over Washington in '52, I think it was. And then we have the reports of Admiral Byrd, who described this machine attacking him. So what you tell me, is that false or is that real? And if this is the tech they had in the 40s, if there was extra land and you had this tech, would you be hanging around?
Right.
Or would you be going out, seeing what's on the outside in the free land without the parasites? And this is airship. Obviously just a depiction, but this is a depiction of an airship at Antarctica. And as you can see, there's lands down here with towns and cities. And of course, the same. This is a cathedral, the same buildings we see everywhere. So it doesn't look like it's a, made up.
I love that
drawing.
picture.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? I forgot what the book was. I think the book was something to do with, I think it had Hyperborea in the title. I can't exactly remember, but
is that a ring of volcanoes around the thing?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, it looks like going into the ocean. I'm not sure exactly.
Wow.
I think it might have something to do with like land of fire and ice and stuff. And this definitely doesn't look frozen, does it? And you just, look at these towers in the background. And this would be, I don't know, India? No, it could be Malaysia or something. I don't know. Asia somewhere, but again, muddy roads, horses, And look what's in the background, you know. And then here, look at this tower. It looks like Rapunzel's tower, doesn't it?
It
So
does.
they clearly didn't build this stuff. Yeah, and this is a shot from Antarctica. It's got no snow on it. It's got a broken boat here.
Oh, wow.
Our penguins, but there ain't no snow. And
When is that from?
just last week I was watching something, and they, you know, the mainstream says there's a couple of thousand warm temperature lakes in Antarctica, like that you can swim in, warm. So this is the other thing, is as we go forward, you know, information changes. They tell us all these lies, but as we start working stuff out, they have to sort of change, and it's like they start releasing information, you know. Suddenly, oh, there's warm lakes in Antarctica. You know, next it'll be, oh, there's a few spots where you can actually live, and you know, in 10 years there'll be 4 cities down there, and they were always there. You know, and this is how they do it, because I don't like being wrong. And, oh my gosh, 7 o'clock. Oh my gosh, it's been going for a while.
Wow.
So there you go. Couple of photos for you. And this is Smoky God with the giants. Olaf, what's his name? That's not there. This is from the 1500s or 1600s. Guy from the Netherlands and his son sailed up to the North Pole. Yeah, sailed up to the North Pole. Whoops. And said they met giants. And they got back. They wrote a diary, and the father basically tried to tell people for the rest of his life, you know, there's land there, we met giants, blah 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 blah, and he ended up getting thrown in a mental asylum where he died. And so this is what they do. And this, right, this is North Pole giants. Now, have you heard the story of Admiral Byrd? Have you read his diary? He's got the same story. He says he went to the North Pole. He said his plane got taken over. He couldn't control it. He got flown in and he met giants. And he said they told him some stuff, you know, told him that, you know, you're not supposed to be killing people. Go back and tell people to be nice to each other. And they let him go. It's the same story, just 400 or 500 years apart. But of course, there's nothing to it, right? Nothing to it, because this dude was crazy. And Admiral Byrd, you know, Admiral Byrd was like the dude. He was like the guy. But he was the epitome of America, the armed forces, of what you want to be, the explorer, the ultimate alpha male. Like, he was it. Admiral Byrd. He was only about 5'5". He was only a little dude. And he did all this stuff. And then he went on that show, the Longines, what's it called? Longines Periscope or whatever, and started talking about Antarctica and all this land and that.
Yes.
And he was in his 50s and he was really healthy.
Right.
He was dead within a couple of months of that interview.
He's just gone. Yeah.
Just gone. From a really vital, healthy dude who was literally out exploring Antarctica, you know, within a year prior to it. Yeah, somebody just drops dead. So it happens all the time. FEV, recent vid Google Earth Antarctica show. Yeah, I saw that, Jim. Yeah. Flat Earth British Martin. He found this video, and again, I don't know if it's true or not, but someone was zooming in on Antarctica, and they zoomed right in, and they got down to like a bay, and had all these buildings around it, and cars and people and boats and people, like a proper little town in Antarctica.
Wow.
Yeah, so like, who knows? You know, what are they hiding? There's a reason we're not allowed down there. There's clearly a reason.
exact. There is a reason
It's like,
for sure.
this is what with the whole shape of the Earth, the flat Earth, the globe, and that. What are they? Why would they do it? What are they hiding? Apart from trying to let us think that we're, insignificant, random, sparks of whatever who just, live a life and then die and don't remember anything. It could also be to hide land.
Right?
Because if you're on a ball, there's no more land. Where is there? Where are you going to go? There's no more land. If it's a ball,
Right.
there ain't no
Exactly.
more land, dude. So why would you even look? Don't do that. The smart people look up. Yeah, stars, right? Yeah, be a theoretical physicist. Now, why do we have so many theoretical physicists and theoretical this and theoretical that? I mean, and in the end, gravity is theoretical. There's an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and someone asked him, "What's gravity?" And it's on film, and he says, "I don't know. We can't explain it." And I don't know. Nothing makes sense. Their model only makes sense when they add dark matter. Ask them what dark matter is. Oh, they don't know. They can't explain it. But it has to be there, or else our model doesn't work.
It fits within the model, exactly. Yeah, are you familiar with David Weiss from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole?
Yeah. Just trying to picture his face. Yes, I definitely know him. Yeah.
He said something today it said it perfectly, in my opinion, and I'm going to paraphrase, but he said something to the effect of, if you were born on an island where no one there was over 40 years old and no one ever left that island, you would believe that was the limit, that you can never leave the island and you can never live beyond 40 years old. But if someone told you the truth about things, that's the difference that it would make if you live on a flat earth or not, or a sphere or not.
Yeah.
That's how much of a difference it is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the thing. What
Who
does
you
it
are
matter?
and where
What does it matter? What do you mean?
where
What
you
does
are
it
and
matter?
how long you can live.
That's like, I mean, it's our home. I mean, it matters a lot that you know what your home is and where you are and what's going on and who's in control. I mean, of course it matters. But yeah, this is the thing. There's so many other bits, isn't it? It constricts the mind, puts borders on it. Because in the end, they say, "Oh, but it's infinite. Space is infinite. It's all infinite." But you can't go there.
Right.
You can't go there. I mean, they can't even get back to the moon, right? They accidentally lost all their bloody trajectory data.
Lost the telemetry data, yeah.
Like you do. They just lost it.
Like the
and then
most
now, after they've lost all the data, now they have to work out how to get through the Van Allen's belt before they can get there.
Exactly.
So this is, it's just, it gets ridiculous when you start looking at it. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is they're just hiding stuff, locking us down, putting their thoughts in our heads. And when we think thoughts, we're powerful. We make things happen. We manifest things.
Yes.
So that's all they need to do is get us to think what they want us to think, and we do the work for them.
Oh, but that magic stuff is silly, Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the magician trick, right? Don't look at what this hand's doing. Look over here.
Oh,
it's the same story.
Absolutely, and that is a
there you go. Diary, yeah. Admiral Richard. That one tells about where he met giants in Hyperborea. The name Arctic comes from the Greek word arctos, which means bear. Antarcticus is thus the opposite of the land of the bear. Oh, so does that mean Owen lives in the Arctic? Owen Benjamin, do you listen to Owen Benjamin at all?
Oh yeah, I have. Mm-hmm.
And bear, how he's into bears, big bear. yeah, Beartaria. Yeah. Bill Nye said the Earth is a closed system. You cannot go anywhere. Yeah, well, Bill Nye can get stuffed. That's like a parrot. You cannot go anywhere. You're grounded. You're grounded.
You're grounded.
But I mean, Bill Nye isn't even. He's got no credentials. He's not anything. He hasn't been to university. He's not like a physicist or anything. Bill Nye's just some dude who got on the bloody telly and started yelling at people.
He's an actor, exactly.
Like this bloody Neil deGrasse. Oh, here it is. This is the planisphere. It's not all of it, but as you can see, again, this is 1500s. And there's just land all around the outside. I can't. It's as big as I can do. I'll have to. I've actually got a video on it where I go through this map on my Auto 2 channel. It's worth a look. It's pretty interesting because they've got animals here. They've got giants on it. They've got all the kings. The kings are all drawn on it around the outside. But yeah, that's the biggest. Unfortunately, the biggest.
Awesome.
Now this is all the countries that have bases on Antarctica. Why does Japan need a base in Antarctica? They're nowhere near it. Why does Brazil's pretty close? We'll give them that. South Africa, sure. What's that? Pakistan? Why does Pakistan need a base in Antarctica?
Wow.
I mean, look at these countries. It's ridiculous.
That makes me remember. I wanted to ask you if there was a Star Force
so important? Yeah. I mean, the whole Falkland Islands thing as well. Why did that go on so long? Why was there such a big war over this tiny little island in the middle of nowhere, but pretty much down in America? It's exactly what's there. This is the thing: are they still looking for tech? Because there's all these little islands and that. That wars like that could be people fighting over what's on the island, what they want to find. We've got all these movies like Indiana Jones and what's that other one, Illuminati or whatever they call it, and the Tom Hanks ones,
or the Nicolas Cage one.
Nicolas Cage, yep, that one. What's that called? It's got the triangle.
American
Illuminati, that one.
Treasure or something.
Yeah.
National Treasure, maybe.
National Treasure. But there's heaps of those types of things. And I even saw a bit of Predator versus Alien the other night. Don't watch it; it's a crap movie. But that was in Antarctica. No, the Arctic, and they found a pyramid under the ice.
I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah, and so they went down, and it's just a complete Mayan pyramid and everything, and under the ice there. And so we have all these stories of all these old things and things underground and treasures and old tech and old information and people searching for stuff. But when you actually say, "Oh, is that true?" Or no, don't be stupid. You're a conspiracy theorist,
right?
So they're out there hunting. I reckon they're still hunting for what they can find.
I mean,
look at this boat.
I'm still absolutely floored that it's somehow wrong to question everything. I mean, everything should be up for questioning, in my opinion. Absolutely everything. At least on the table for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that was always the giveaway that, if you're not allowed to ask a question, then they're hiding something. Clearly,
yeah.
You know this. Any intelligent person knows that.
Yeah.
And so that's the giveaway, that we're not allowed to ask questions. And then what we see now is they're going berserk. They're trying to, over censor everything. At this particular point in time, when we're changing ages, so I'm pretty sure there's a bit of a connection there. Locking people inside, so they don't notice the color of the sun or the sky as much, maybe.
Yep.
And then obviously the rest of it's about clients, about how many people can we keep, under our control and control for the next 2,160 years. That's what this is about. They want to control the next age. And I don't think I think they know they can't, because the energy is going to vibrate too high, but that doesn't mean that they can't, stay in their low vibration and take people with them.
Right.
All they need to do, right, is talk people into, oh no, you're not good enough for anything. You need to hide your face from a disease. That this is a deadly disease. It kills 0.0001% of people who get it. So you better be scared. You better chuck that thing on your kid's face. You better go down the shops and yell at people that aren't wearing that thing on their face. Most of all, do not research, do not look into the fact that people are committing suicide left, right, and center. And that is the real pandemic. And everyone who's wearing a mask on their face is enabling that, which is the thing.
Right.
These people walk around, point the finger like they're bigger and better than us, because some idiot some overpaid idiot repeater on the telly has told them, and they point the finger, and literally because of them, people are committing suicide. If everyone didn't comply and wear the mask and lock down, these people wouldn't have committed suicide, because they wouldn't have been in lockdown. So these literally, these mask holes are the cause. And I think we really need to, we've sort of been going, they don't know, poor. I think it's time we need to call them out and say, look, you guys are now on the side of evil. Don't, especially if they say something to you. Like I would strip them down with facts. With facts. You don't need to call people names. You just need to say this is the facts. But they need to be told, because they are marching us down the. And again, I don't think they can. I think there's going to be a split. I do. I just think there's going to be a split. I think there's going to be a new Earth. I think that everything's energy, and it's only that we're taught that everything's physical, that's what we see and that's what we perceive. But when you think about it, the mindset and the vibration of one group of people down here is so different to the other group of people. The mask holes, they don't look like they're ready to ascend, do they?
Right.
They don't look like they're ready to march forward and build a brave new world, a new world, right? A better new world. They don't look like that. Right. So I really don't think they're going to do that. So is there going to be a split, and they end up? Is this what heaven and hell is?
I've wondered that.
Seriously, is this what heaven and hell is? They go down, we go up. You get to choose. It's all based on what you do and your choices. That's pretty much where we are, right?
Right.
And next to that, the caveat is, the devil is the great deceiver. That's what you got to remember. But they believe. So, it's pretty biblical, I think, at the moment.
Undeniably.
I talk a lot, don't I? Sorry, I'll shut up now.
Oh, no, not at all, man. Not at all.
You put the Black Knight satellite? Yeah, the Black Knight satellite. Wow. Haven't heard of that for a while. Is it still up there? Sorry, what's that? 1OFA? And 100 Monkeys. Good name. The 100 Monkey Theories. Let's hope that comes true, right?
They've had a lot of interesting things to say tonight, too. So I have to share a little mask story, if you don't mind. May I?
Yes. Please talk. I'll shut up.
Oh, no. You just inspired me to say it. By all means, don't shut up. In fact, I'll be brief. Anyway, I was in a local thrift store recently. I don't wear the mask. I do have medical conditions, but I don't believe in it either. And so anyway, I've been able to shop there until the other day. two people came up to me, two managers, and with the one woman had a mask in her bare hands, had a mask, and then she had a shield, a plastic shield in the other. And she said, I noticed you didn't have a mask, so I brought you these. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't wear one. I have a medical condition. And she says, well, I'm sorry, you can't be in the building without one of these on. And you know, that whole thing. But I was thinking, okay, first of all, she's got her bare hands on these things. That can't be sanitary in anybody's mind. And the CDC itself on their website doesn't recommend those plastics shields as protective gear. And I pointed that out. But, you know, it's just like, there's no logic to that. It's like, it's totally a placebo. It's totally like a fright thing.
It's bizarre.
You know, if it was anything based in science, you know.
Yeah. In Victoria, and also, you know, all over the place really, but last year when they were having the lockdown and the protests in Victoria and all the police were beating people up, I mean, and this is the thing, right? People are going out, you know, just marching basically on the street without masks. And so the police come down and they're yelling, you're doing the wrong thing because you're not socially distancing and you're not got masks on. Because, you know, the beer bug, right? You're going to kill everyone. So what do they do? They start tackling people. They get as close to these people as they possibly can. They put their hands all over them. They breathe in their faces. They let them breathe in their faces. So none of these people are scared of the virus. They're not. If their actions do not match their words.
Exactly.
So they're clearly insane. But it just doesn't. I mean, seriously, it's like you said, you know, with the shield. Do people not understand air moves? I mean, like, what's going on here? How could it? When I had to go to the hospital yesterday, and someone tried to bloody squeeze antibacterial in my face, in my hand. And this guy, and this is a sad thing. He's standing up, and he's got his nice little uniform on, and he's got his little, you know, like his little, what are they called? That you speak behind, like a speaker box thing. And he's got his big volunteer. I'm a volunteer, and he's got all these antibacterials on his little bloody table, and he's looking very proud, you know, because he's sitting there like, oh yes, I'm saving the world.
Right.
I'm thinking you're insane. So I walk past, and he literally gets one of these things and puts out and squeezes it and tries to squeeze it on my hand as I'm walking past.
Oh.
And I just moved my hands, so it all went on the floor. And of course, I've got like this. My left hand's not working. I said, how do you expect me to get that off, mate? And he sort of went, oh, okay, yeah, sorry. You know, I didn't think about that. Yeah, no crap. You don't think about much. And then as I was walking off, I just went, you know, in a very loud voice because I was annoyed. And why do you think an antibacterial will stop a virus?
Exactly.
What the hell? I mean, come on. That's basic thinking, right?
The people like that, they can't.
And nurses do it. Nurses and doctors, medical professionals.
Yes.
Apparently don't know the difference between a bacteria and a virus. I keep looking at this screen, but my camera's here. Sorry, that's why my face is sideways.
Oh no worries. There are people out there who are at least as smart as you and I, you know, and they're still deceived somehow, or they still don't put that together. How?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the start, you could have kind of argued, you know, peer pressure. You know, they don't want to be seen different. They don't want to, you know, be the outcast. Maybe work in that, but when you get to a point where it's taking away your freedoms, it's shutting down economies, it's probably taking your job, collapse your business if you had one. It's affecting your children's school. I mean, at that point, the question really is, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Why can these people not see it? Why? You know, because it's plainly obvious. On the packaging of the mask, it says they don't stop the virus. It's
maybe two masks. And when there's things like that come out that are just ridiculous statements, who doesn't hear that and go, come on?
This is it. I mean, what's going on? Are we dealing with NPCs here or something? Because
Something.
seriously, it's like this thing doesn't work. So here are two things that don't work. Use them both. And together, they won't work. But wear them anyway.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's like you say, the logical steps just don't exist. They're not, taking logical steps. If someone says, wear this mask, you think, why? Oh, because of this. Oh, but how's it going to stop that? Oh, but no, that doesn't work. End of conversation. But
yeah.
I mean, there's obviously the social justice warrior bit of it, which people just want to go and find an enemy and yell at people, right? Because they hate their lives, so they want to go and find someone to blame.
Yeah. Virtue signaling.
Prepared to give up. I mean, and I think there's people out there who truly believe the government, and they believe that this is going to finish. So they believe if I wear the mask, we're only 12 months into our 2-week lockdown, but another month of mask wearing and that'll change everything. Just one more month. Just another month. And they obviously believe that at some point they'll go, oh yeah, there's no more buggy, you'll get to go out, everything's back on, we'll open the economy, everyone gets a new business, we'll give them money, everything's back to normal. And so if you believe that, then you could see someone who's not wearing a mask as someone who's potentially taking away your future freedoms or whatever. But it doesn't make any sense. But I can see how they could create that story, if you know what I mean.
Indeed. And Shamanic says, let's stack a non-existent on another and make it real. That's basically how it goes. All of it, like even the gravity thing that we were talking about earlier, it all fits within those other non-realities.
It does. Just all lies on lies on lies on lies. Twisted, obfuscated, and left for us to work out. So the biggest thing we can do is just not listen to them, not believe them. Find our own story. Our story is a mystery, right? My story is a mystery.
My story is a mystery. I like that very much. I wonder if anybody in the chat has any questions for Campbell. If Campbell wouldn't mind taking them. Would you?
Too old and lockdown. It's free money. Press. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing about lockdown. Yeah, they're telling people that you don't have to work. We'll give you money and you can just sit on your ass and watch Netflix.
I thought lockdown was a prison.
Well, it is. It is. There's a movie, a Sylvester Stallone movie from the 90s called Lockdown, and he's in jail escaping.
That's right.
It is. Lockdown. It's just... All right, what do we got here? Censorship, no incentive. Surround yourself with like-minded people. I agree, Mark. This is a spiritual war, my friends. It is a spiritual war. Bob, man who designed test claimed it is not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know, right?
Isn't that amazing?
This is the thing. It doesn't take... You could look in any direction, and it doesn't take long to find information that tells you this is all just a scam. Any direction. But people just won't do it. They just will not look. They will not read. They will not, decipher things.
I know I hear this from other people sometimes when I watch shows like yours. And anyway, I'm grateful for things like this because I'm alone in my world and in my perspective. And it's good to have connections like you and others out here who are at least partially like-minded.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's kind of why I've started doing more lives, and I'm, premiering my videos so that people can chat and talk, because it is, most of us are in the same position. We've sort of ended up that there's all these individuals all sort of, none of us seem to be that close together.
Right.
So yeah, we've just got to form our group online, and sort of work out where everyone is. But there's stuff coming. There's an app coming out by Jesse. What's it called? The New Earth Project. Who's New Earth? Can't remember. Jesse Casanova's invented an app, or written an app, and basically it's so that it's all got its own it's all very safe, but it's so you can contact people close to you in your proximity, in your area.
Awesome.
So that people can start forming actual groups, to solve this problem. Because in any city you might have 100,000 people, and in that 100,000 people you might have 100 people that are awake, but the chances of those 100 people finding each other in the crowd of 100,000 is pretty small. So that's what this app is there to do, is to help people find each other and create groups.
Yes.
Discord.
Yeah, Discord is good.
Discord's good. What's the other big one at the moment? Telegram. Yeah.
Telegram. I was just going to say that. I haven't checked it yet, but it's tabbed for me to go to later.
Yeah. So there's a few more. I mean, that's the thing. Facebook's dead. Oh, this is Antarctica. This is literally like the bottom of their ball. And see, there's just cuts everywhere. And you can see the lines, how it looks like it's been, folded in, if you know what I mean. You know how
that's Google Earth.
To make a ball, you need to sort of cut points at the bottom so you can fold them all in together. And that's what these are. These cuts. You can see them everywhere. So the whole thing is it's just silly. They can't. I mean, with the amount of technology we've got, and what they've got, you think they could at least get it right. And then the problem is, then you go on it and you find stuff and they blur it out. As soon as you find something that's good on there, that they just blur it out.
Yep.
Michael bought an Auto Didactic hoodie. Woohoo! Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Those are cool hoodies. Go out to Auto Didactic and check out stuff.
I might actually have some new ones coming out. I want to get some. I've got to get my son to design it, to draw it, but just some mud flood sort of type ones. And with that building I showed you with the door and the windows, and then the ones underground.
Yeah.
Like a picture like that on a t-shirt, I thought would be good, and a star fort. Just to sort of get it out there, because star forts, most people have never heard of them, and you show them star forts and they freak out. They're just like, what the hell? What's that? Oh my god.
Yeah, that was me.
It's a big entry point, I think. Oh my god,
how about this? How about a shirt that says, dude, the buildings are melting? I don't know if you'd catch that. It's kind of a psychedelic. The walls are melting. Maybe we could tie that or something.
Put some biblical people in there. It's all melting. That is the thing. I mean, and when you put it out there, people just need to see the pictures, and it's pretty good. That's a good picture there.
Oh, that's awesome. I really like airships.
They're cool, aren't they? Have you seen mine? I've done a couple of videos.
Yes.
You saw those, with the Empire State Building and people walking out into the airships and
docking on the
now
needle.
They've actually come out. They've got the guy who's the CEO or whatever. They've actually made a video. They made him make a video, and this is just recently. So maybe they saw my videos. I don't know. A video of him saying, "No, definitely not. No airships ever came here. It wasn't built before. It's not even big enough." And rah. And no. And then you look into it, and everything he says is just completely wrong. That it was actually called the spire they built on the top was called a docking spire.
Really?
And he's like, no, it was only ever for telecommunications. It's like, why'd you call it a docking tower? So they come out, as soon as we find information, they just come out and they try and they do that because we're not going to listen to that guy. But everyone who watches the mainstream, if we go up and say, oh, yeah, did you know that the Empire State, if they've got any inkling to research, that'll be the first thing that pops up. And they'll go, oh, you're an idiot. The guy who owns it, who runs it, says that that's not true. Oh, really?
Debunk.
How much does he get paid a year?
Yeah, right.
But here's another one. See, possible, and this is it.
Wow.
Is that the Earth?
What's that from?
I don't know. A book, I think.
Huh.
It says most of the blue area is extricated from the United Nations logo. Oh, okay. Which does not illustrate Antarctica. Good point.
Look
Admiral
at
Richard
that.
E. Byrd ventured beyond the pole and discovered many tropical lands and races of men. So yeah, on the UN symbol, you get this, and then around the outside, there's no Antarctica anywhere on the bottom. They just got the laurel wreath, representing the water.
Wow.
I guess. And that's the thing, yeah. The I don't even know what these pictures are. They're very small. There we go. Back to that one. So yeah, there we go. Geez, that was a bit of a walk, wasn't it? From mud flooders to Star Force to Antarctica, to the government to stories.
Just what I expected out of this, man. Beautiful.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it's fun. Yeah, I might have to get cruising soon. We've been on for a few hours, have we?
Absolutely. Yeah. It looks like, wow, this is the longest one yet, 3 hours and 15 minutes. My first one was about this long, but I think you got the record now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yes.
Beat me.
Man, I hope we get a chance to talk again. You're very stimulating, and you're an awesome dude. It's fun to talk with you. And if anybody else has any thing for Campbell, shout out now before we close up, but also go to Auto Didactic.
Question or but yeah, no, we can get back and have another chat for sure. Peace and love. Thank you, Scott. The map is from 1,000 years old Buddhist map in. Yeah, that's that. I don't know that it's this one, but there's another one that's black and white. It's from a Japanese temple.
Interesting. I have an interest in that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a I don't think I've got it. No, I don't think I do. But it basically looks like this one. But yeah, it's supposed to be the original, 1,000 years old. And this is the thing with maps. They're God, no doubt I've got it somewhere. I've just got to, as you can see, I've got a couple of pictures. Yeah.
You're more organized than I am. Mine are all over the place.
No doubt I've got it somewhere. There you go, Hyperborea. All the flags, green lands, no ice.
Dude.
All there. 1500s. So there you go. Well, all right. How many have we got on live? Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. Thanks for your comments.
Indeed, that's another record for Who's Zoomin' Woo and Yogi Chander. Over 100 viewers at one time tonight.
Oh, nice. Well,
that's huge for
me. I'm the champ. 2 records in one night.
You brought a lot of people here. I appreciate that, and I hope that a lot of people will, by word of mouth, talk about this and send people your way.
Cool. Hope I was entertaining for everyone. All righty. Well, yeah, thanks all for having me, and have an awesome, what is it, day for you? You're in the morning. I'm at night.
Yeah, for me, it's 4:30.
Awesome. And yeah, we'll chat again soon.
Sweet. I am going to end this broadcast. I'd love to say just a quick goodbye to you, Campbell, offline. But good night, everybody. Thank you for being here I love you. I do. I'm so blessed for this whole evening.
Look, well, guys,
And thanks
stay
again to Campbell.
awesome.
Hey,
No
awesome.
worries.